Today on
Doomed!
the right wing, never seems to really surprise us. But I gotta say, even I'm not shocked, but a little, I guess, taken back by how they are reacting to this shooting at an LGBTQ club in Colorado Springs. We'll get into that. Also, we'll be talking updates on what is going on in Ukraine. Russia is still waging war there, even though the mainstream media seems to not be covering it as closely. And joining me to talk about all of this, and maybe even more if there's time, let me pull us up on the feed here, is my guest for today. He is a freelance journalist, as much as he cringed at that description of himself. He is a freelance journalist who has been on the ground in Ukraine covering what's going on. Dylan Burns. Dylan, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to see you. I am glad you are on now as an actual officially invited guest, because you were actually on a previous episode.
Yes.
Because you heard me talking to Vash and then called in to give me updates about what was going on in Ukraine, and I was like, Dylan is beyond the call-in level. He needs to be an actual booked guest.
I came on, I bullied my way in, okay? I broke my way through your staff. You're very, very aggressive staff. Very handsy, by the way.
And there's many of them, too, as you can attest. I've got dozens and dozens of people working for me.
Many of them in color-coded uniforms, bow ties and all. I get past them so I can call in and finally tell you the truth about Ukraine. And now you have finally let the floodgates open. You've let the floodgates open. You've allowed my Trojan horse into the castle.
Right, yes, and you are now in here. And I gotta say, it's pretty perfect timing, because I actually, I have another show called Scam Economy that covers cryptocurrency, and it covers it in a way that not many other shows cover crypto. It is a strictly anti-crypto show. And this past episode that dropped on Sunday, I had on one of the guys, like really the main guy, who helped put together the Aid for Ukraine crypto donation program over there. Mm-hmm. And he came on to try to really give us a behind the scenes look into how that all came together. And he wanted to talk with me specifically to try to dispel that insane conspiracy theory that alleges that Joe Biden,
the money wash FTX story, dude. So many people have jumped on this nonsense, and they're doing it with there's no paper trail, there's no record of money there's nothing at all tying FTX to Ukraine outside of, as far as I'm aware, is the fact that they basically turned cryptocurrency, the fiat currency, to like donate to like aid groups or like certain parts of the country. That's it. There's no evidence of anything else as far as I'm aware, but everybody's repeating the claim, like even Congress people.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there was. I saw off the top of my head, Madison Cawthorn, which I guess really shouldn't be a surprise.
Former Congressman.
Well, no, he still is until January, I believe. Right? Yeah. He
lost the primary.
Yeah. And Josh Hawley, not digging deep into this specific conspiracy theory involving Ukraine, but still alleging, without saying the word Ukraine, that billions of dollars were funneled by FTX to the Democratic Party.
The Libertarian Party, the National Libertarian Party. And the thing that was crazy about the National Libertarian Party, they tweeted out an image that also included an anti-Semitic depiction of Zelensky doing like the Jewish merchant like hand thing. And wonderful. So it added a little anti-Semitic sprinkle on top for all of their lovely supporters. I went to the Students for Liberty conference in Miami to speak about Ukraine, and it's a libertarian conference. But I would say Students for Liberty, I would say, are if someone was to actually define them, classical liberal is the actual, like, they're the only person I would actually say they actually seem like actual classical liberals. Everybody else who just calls themselves classical liberal, what they really mean is, hello, I'm racist. But the thing is, I was there, and the whole time I was there, they're like, the whole time I'm talking to people in private, I won't call anybody out specifically, but the whole time it's like, our party's it's in the shitter. Fucking people aren't signing up. The Mises Caucus is running into the ground. They're embarrassing us. We don't know why these Twitter accounts are doing this. Justin Amash spoke there and was even shitting on the Libertarian Party's Twitter account, and it was almost a consensus from anybody who had a pulse there that the Libertarian Party is crashing and burning currently. I mean, they're actually talking about selling. They're actually the thing is, before they didn't have anything to crash and burn. Now they have like a $300 car to crash and burn. Right. They're actually talking about selling their office in D.C. Their physical office in D.C. How embarrassing is that for a political party?
I gotta say, nothing will ever be greater than that moment where the one libertarian who would be able to be, because he has been a mainstream political candidate, not good obviously, but the most mainstream a libertarian can get, Gary Johnson, going out there and saying, I do think that people should have to wear seatbelts. That's what I do think people should have to wear seatbelts when they drive. And the entire crowd at the Libertarian conference going, boo!
How dare you? How dare you? The thing is, it's and there seems to be a consensus in the people I talk to that like the Libertarian Party gets itself caught up in like stupid squabbles, which is true. It doesn't not know how to like pick a fight, like pick a hill to die on.
Right. The conspiracy makes zero sense because if you're gonna launder money like that as a known entity, crypto is probably the worst way to do it because all the transactions are on the blockchain. And if you're dealing with billions of dollars, there are literal like automated systems set up that track the flow of large sums of money on various blockchains. The accounts that have these large sums are called crypto whales, and there's like alerts that go out when the money moves. Second of all, I have, after interviewing the guy, he's the CEO of this Ukrainian crypto company, Everstake, along with heading up the Aid for Ukraine program. He sent me the documents that show, like I have, I can't publish them because it's, they're private documents, but he showed me the documents that show the transactions from bank account to bank account and all the transactions on the blockchain that coincide with those bank account transactions. What we have here is crypto donations that were sent from outside parties to Ukraine needed to be converted into fiat currency for the suppliers who would not accept crypto. Early on, they couldn't do that in Ukraine because there were regulations and bans on cross-border payments when the war first started. So FTX reached out with a legal team saying, we'll help you do this, and work directly with the National Bank of Ukraine so that a few of the crypto donations were sent to FTX. FTX immediately converted into fiat currency and then sent the fiat currency to the National Bank of Ukraine. I've seen the documents. National Bank of Ukraine back in March even confirmed the amount they received. The total amount of money that FTX ever received in crypto donations to Ukraine, which they converted to fiat currency and then immediately sent to the National Bank of Ukraine, the total amount was just over $1.5 million. Now, I don't know about people who are good at math, but $1.5 million is well below the around $40 million that SBF donated to various political campaigns through his PACs. It's well below the $27 million that a right-wing FTX executive sent to various Republicans. It's well below the billions being alleged were funneled through FTX to Democrats.
People are saying as if like we send our aid, it gets transferred through SPX and then goes to Ukraine. That like FTX is not involved in this isn't like federal government aid. Right? I think a lot of people, because they think it's a government transfers money. This is like private donors, as far as I'm aware, correct? Private crypto donors.
Yes. These were private individuals who, when, I don't know if people remember, to me, this is like just general information because I was covering this like crazy when this started because there were so many crypto grifters trying to take advantage of the situation in Ukraine.
Always.
So, Yeah, so I was completely like plugged in when this was going on. But basically, in the early days of like when Russia first invades Ukraine, Ukraine first comes out and says they're not accepting crypto. All of a sudden, all these crypto people are complaining, and then Russia has this agency. Excuse me, not Russia. Ukraine has this agency within it called the Ministry of Digital Transformation. That's basically like a bunch of tech dudes who work for the government of Ukraine and try to get them to, modernize and hop on whatever the latest technology is. As my guest on Scam Economy explained it to me, it's literally just like a handful of people, like no more than like a dozen guys like working in like a basement or something. It's not like the biggest agency in Ukraine. It's just like this like ad hoc group of people trying to get this stuff to work. So they basically convinced the government to accept crypto donations. They threw up a bunch of wallets that accepted different cryptocurrencies on Twitter. People started donating. There was a bunch of drama around that. That's, again, go check out Scam Economy. I have episodes on what happened early on with the grifters trying to take advantage of Ukraine. But long story short, they needed all the suppliers were accepting crypto. Some of them did, but not all of them would. And they were able to deal with people who donated from within Ukraine, but people from outside Ukraine, they needed a way to transfer that money into fiat currency. And that's where FTX came in and helped out there. I mean, it's Ukraine. First of all, the Joe Biden administration never dealt with FTX in that way. The Democratic Party never dealt with FTX in that way. The Ukrainian government never sent any of their funds to FTX. Around $1.5 million of donations in crypto sent to Ukraine from other people outside third parties. That money was sent through FTX so they could exchange it into fiat currency, where they then went ahead and deposited it in the National Bank of Ukraine for the Ukrainian government to use.
So the thing is about this is the people who are reposting this conspiracy theory about FTX seem to always be the same. I'm sorry I changed cameras, so low quality in comparison. But they change. They're all the same low effort grifters that just like the Twitter mongers, the people who just make money by getting attention, not by like providing substantial reporting or by telling the truth, but by crafting narratives, right? And wherever there's a narrative to be crafted, they will take the opportunity, no matter how truthful it is or isn't. But do you know where this conspiracy originated? When did people start saying all of a sudden, oh, Ukraine's at fault somehow for FTX? Because I started seeing like Russian officials start talking about this stuff. Like, this went pretty far.
There was a press release that was posted on CoinDesk's website. CoinDesk, the news outlet that covers crypto. They do a lot of good work, especially in the past like year or two. I would say they really have been on top of this stuff. They basically ran a news story about this press release that came out that announced when FTX joined forces with the Ukrainian crypto companies Everstake and Kuna to basically form this Aid for Ukraine program. That was it. It was an announcement of a partnership between FTX and Aid for Ukraine. And I don't know who the first individual was. I do know one of the earliest right-wing outlets to run it was Gateway Pundit. I don't know if he was the first overall,
of course,
but he was the first I saw running it. And they basically saw this CoinDesk story that back in March, FTX partners with the Ukrainian crypto companies to form Aid for Ukraine. FTX was, as I understand it from the administrator of the program, who I interviewed, they basically had no role after that $1.5 million or so was exchanged, because the Ukrainian government and the banks over there quickly lifted those regulations and bans on cross-border payments. And that's when the Ukrainian companies themselves, like Kuna, a Ukrainian-based crypto exchange, was basically able to just take over and do the actual, fiat currency exchanges and deposits to the National Bank of Ukraine. Overall in total, when it comes to crypto donations to Ukraine, it was only around, $60 million or so. So even that is well below the billions of dollars. And when it comes to the amount actually that they worked with FTX on, again, was 1.5 million. I mean, the numbers are not adding up here. And on top of all that, the ridiculousness of literally a country at war with a much larger, nation that has way more resources, and they're gonna just funnel these billions of dollars outside of their country instead of using it for their own survival. It makes zero sense.
It doesn't make sense, and there's no evidence to back it. It's just what I would usually see is, and what I always ask for evidence is somebody would just like produce a graph, and the graph would just show like Joe Biden, then aligned to FTX, then aligned to Ukraine, then aligned back to Joe Biden. Like that's it. That's the only. Just like they're just going into the picture editor and making graphs of things that don't exist. And there was never any evidence to substantiate it. And so I think what this shows is there really is a demand amongst, I think, because this was picked up a lot by the online right. There really seems to be a demand, particularly in online, hardcore populist, anti-establishment communities, for like anti-Ukraine content. Just anything that could ever paint Ukraine in a bad light, even if it's completely unrelated to Ukraine, like this FTX story. Really, they got to find some way to not only implicate Joe Biden in the massive money laundering scheme, but also the Ukrainians while defending themselves. They're like a devious actor behind every act. Like the Ukrainians are acting deviously in some manner, and I don't understand it, because like there are legitimate criticisms you can make of the Ukrainian government, of things that they've done that you could point to, but instead they just focus on fairy tales. I don't know why. I think honestly, I can't say I don't know why. I think the reason why is if they're not dishonest about Ukraine, then their position on Ukraine looks a lot, well, shittier.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for this specific conspiracy theory, I think it was just the obvious connection of Joe Biden to the guy running a Ponzi scheme. This is a huge story in the tech, business, and financial world. The fall of one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world, and all this information coming out. Like, this is a huge scandal, and rightfully so. The FTX definitely was doing something wrong here, and it seems like the allegations of criminal activity do bear out here. They were running a Ponzi scheme. This is a scam. And there are connections with Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of FTX, also known as SBF for short. There are connections with SBF to the political world, specifically the Democratic Party, too. He was a donor to the Democratic Party. He was a big donor to them. But what people leave out there is he was mostly a donor to the Democratic Party in the primary races, where he ran his own candidates against many incumbent Dems. In fact, one of his candidates in Oregon, out of the $36 or $37 million he donated...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you say ran their own candidates, was it like he went out there and found these people and asked them to run, or like he saw like challengers and he was like, I like this guy, I'm going to back him?
Combination of both. For example, this guy specifically. Let me pull up the exact thing. One second. Okay, so SBF liked to call himself an effective altruist. Effective altruism was his whole motto, and that thought process is that you live in this world, and this is ridiculous to anyone who has any sort of left-wing politics, but this is how people who want to be very rich try to launder progressive politics in their own weird, sick world. That the goal of effective altruism is to make as much money as possible so you can then use it to do good in the world. I mean, gross bullshit. It never works out. I mean, we know why they want it. It's basically a way of saying don't criticize me for hoarding as much money as possible. I promise I'm only doing it because I want to do good with it. But so he basically, this guy Carrick Flynn in Oregon, he ran this guy Carrick Flynn, who also was an effective altruism believer. Like, that was his whole thing that he ran on too. So in this case, he
ran on effective altruism.
Yes.
How do you run on
like that? Was like
altruism?
It was like their whole thing. Like, it's this whole weird thing in like the weird like VC entrepreneur world. It's this whole. I'm not even that familiar with it. I just know of it from SBF, honestly. But this guy, Carrick Flynn, out of the $37 million that SBF donated overall to Democrats and Republicans, his overall political donations, $37 million in 2022, $10.5 million of that money went to Carrick Flynn for his failed primary campaign.
10.5?
million.
How
Yes. So
how
one
what
guy
was this?
got like a quarter or so of all the money SBF ended up donating overall in 2022
That's insane.
to elections.
How did he perform?
He lost. I'm not sure what the actual he lost though. Let me pull up on. I found the Ballotpedia here. Let's see. Oh, he did. He ran the U.S. House district in Oregon, District 6. He ran against. There was a bunch of candidates. Andrea Salinas won with 36.3% of the vote. Carrick Flynn came in second with 18.3% of the vote.
Wow, not even like half. Oh my goodness.
He got just over 11,000 votes.
Wow. Yeah, I guess saying like, "Hello, I just want us to get so rich that we can just give our money away," isn't like a very effective campaign. How do you even sell that to the American people? My policy is that I hope that rich people can make more money, and then eventually they'll help. I don't understand. Like, how do you even sell that as a campaign strategy?
Right.
In Ohio?
Okay, so the basics of effective altruism, according to effectivealtruism.org, is
Oh, of course.
is effective altruism is a research field and practical community that aims to find the best ways to help others and put them into practice. So I guess that's the generic way of describing it. But when it comes to SBF's version of it, it was to make as much money as possible so then he can use it for good. I mean, we now know that he actually...
But it doesn't really work if you're causing harm by the way you're making the money.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would say it's interesting because as he's saying this, we now know that he raised money from outside investors, something like 400 something million, and in one of their investment rounds. And out of that 400 something million dollars that SBF raised, he personally paid himself something like $300 million from that.
Oh my God.
He was using FTX's funds, like his business's money, to buy hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property in the Bahamas for personal use for himself and his parents. They bought a bunch of like condos, I believe I read, to rent out. And I mean, this is effective altruism, baby. That's what it's all about.
Wait, fucking like for his parents too. He got property for his parents as well.
Yeah, that's effective altruism, man. Just helping other people. All about helping other people.
It's all very altruistic. Hey, 1.5 million though. That was very kind of him. 1.5 million.
Well, that's not even his money. That was just
you're right. He was just the platform. It'd be like PayPal saying, "We will allow you to donate using our platform." That's the effectiveness. That's basically what he did.
Right. I mean, I guess maybe they pay. Maybe they covered the transaction fees. I don't quote me on that. It's possible they even deducted the transaction fees.
Didn't this guy like? Wasn't there like an article about he played World of Warcraft during like investor
League
meetings
of Legends
and like. It was League of Legends.
Yeah, I know nothing about that game
during investor meetings. So what was the idea during that? Like they would just walk up to him and he would be playing League of Legends and he's just like, yeah, so just give me your money or whatever.
He would be on like Zoom calls and be like playing it while talking with them over Zoom or whatever. And like the reason it came out is because like an employee or something walked by him and saw him playing League of Legends on his phone or what. I don't even know where you play League of Legends, honestly, but that's the story, that he would play while apparently though, again, don't know nothing.
That's labor that deserves $300 million of investor money. He was working hard. I bet he was diamond.
Honestly, that's in fact, he was like, I don't know if that, I'm guessing you're referring to like the levels in League of Legends. Apparently he only was like a level 2 bronze or something.
Damn.
He was really bad at it, apparently. I saw someone point out that, and I don't know what this means. AOC could be a great League of Legends player, but this is something I saw someone else say, that he was like multiple levels under AOC, and I'm sure she has a lot less time to play it than apparently SBF had.
Jesus Christ. Does that mean she needs like a $300 million raise or $400 million because she's better than him, obviously?
Right. You know, see, here's the amazing thing though. Like, to me, that's the least unlikable thing about him. Hey, if you can bilk these dumbass VCs over Zoom or whatever to give you hundreds of millions of dollars for your company while you're half-assing it playing video games, then power to you, man. I don't mind that shit. It's the stealing from the retail investors, your customers, your everyday people who put their money on your platform and using those funds to essentially gamble it away via your hedge fund, which is what he did, and then also use that money to buy property in the Bahamas for your personal use and your family. Like, that's the shit that gets me.
Look, he was gonna give the Bahamas, okay? He was gonna give those properties to like refugees from Ukraine, okay? We were in talks. We were in deep talks. It was effective altruism. He wanted them to have a nice time when they came back from the war.
Right. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make sure that everything. Yeah, he was saving up for that. Right. Oh my God. I really, it's been a really crazy couple of weeks between SBF and FTX, and all the drama with Elon Musk and Twitter. And then you got this horrible shooting that just happened in Colorado at this LGBTQ club, and then then these conspiracy theories about FTX and Ukraine going on. Like, it's been
Have you seen the Tim Pool
couple
tweets?
Of weeks. I have seen the Tim Pool tweets.
They're very bad. Oh my God.
He often does two things. He attempts to be very careful with his wording as to not trip any, issues with platforms that care. I mean, Twitter did once, but apparently not anymore. But he's still very careful if you watch or listen to him to use, words to hedge by. Like, he always makes sure he uses alleged or reportedly or things like that to be very careful so he doesn't get like banned from YouTube or whatever. It's most of the time from what I've noticed. Or he'll be purposefully insightful to the point where it's over the top, like ridiculous. Like, you're just looking at this guy and it's like, you sound like what? I can't believe you. I think he was trying to go for the second one here, and it missed the mark big time, and it is coming off really bad for him. And I don't think he is
can we
there to notice quickly? That. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just read this. He did like 3 or 4, but I'll just read the one that's like the most obvious. So it was in response to somebody saying, talking about, the people who shot it up. He responds saying, "We shouldn't tolerate pedophiles grooming kids. Club Q had a grooming event. How do we prevent the violence and stop the grooming?" Like, this is just him calling people with no evidence, no information whatsoever. When the bodies aren't even cold, he's calling them pedophiles. He's calling them pedophiles and groomers with no evidence whatsoever. And I feel like hearing him talk about so much, like, oh my God, the left calls everybody a racist. They call everybody a bigot. They call everybody homo. It's unbelievable. These words have lost all their meaning. And then immediately, once you get the opportunity, you just call pedophile, groomer. Like, the word has become worthless because of its overuse. I have heard groomer referred to more and more directed towards people like just doing drag shows than actual pedophiles, like Chris Hansen types, right? Like, this word has completely lost all of its meaning. And to hear it said so much by the same people who complain so much about racism and that accusation being thrown around like candy, while at the same time just fuck, dude, this is like really bad. Like, this is something I can't reconcile with. Like, this is really, really bad. Not only hypocritical, but it's also just, I think, flat out disrespectful. I think he knew what he was doing. I don't think he's that stupid.
You'd be.
But you have been on his show, haven't you?
Yeah, I was on his show. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I would do it again because I thought it was incredibly insightful for his viewers, and for months afterwards, I had people call into the show who said they saw me on Tim Pool's show and they never saw my show before, and how they subscribe to my show now, and we had discussions about certain things, and even winning one person over makes it totally worth it in my view, but it was clearly even bigger than that.
Do you think he's intelligent?
I think he's crafty. He's crafty. Do
you think he's being crafty here, or do you think this is just him like stumbling around? Or
this was his attempt. This is an attempt at him being crafty, and he completely blew it here. I believe let me be clear though. I believe he thinks these things, but he's usually crafty in how he puts it out there as to not sound like, some of the other people on the right who just are full on mask off, usually just up front. I mean, Tim goes mask off every now and then, obviously. I'm not saying he never has, but he usually tries to be a little bit craftier so he could try to wiggle his way out by saying, I got him. I trolled them. This was all trolling. It was to get a reaction out of people. These ones are beyond that. If he meant to do this, and this is a different, I think he's making a different play here. Maybe he feels a little bit more like he can do these things now that Elon Musk is in charge of Twitter, it was another attempt at him being the master troll to incite a reaction, and he completely fucking failed here. There are people who are not insane right-wingers who probably consider themselves to be run-of-the-mill conservatives in the fact that they go out and just vote Republican or whatever, but they don't partake in the political, discourse whatsoever in their life. Who, if they saw this shit, they would say, what? This doesn't make any sense. This is mean. This is not right.
The only evidence he ended up providing, by the way, he calls himself a centrist. Let me just be clear.
That's mask off for a while now. That's and I got him to say, someone shared. I totally forgot about this clip. I got him to say a number of things that, I don't think he realized he said on the show, but I was able to clip afterwards. He told me, we got into the abortion debate because that whole thing happened with Roe v. Wade, right when I went on the show. And, he tweeted something out and we started talking about it. And he said to me that if it came down to either banning abortion completely, no abortion at all, period, in this country, or standing with people who think that you should get an abortion up to 9 months, the right loves doing the whole abortion up to birth thing, then I will stand with the people who say no abortion whatsoever. Because, you don't have a right to hurt children or something like that, he said. And then literally like a week later, the Uvalde shooting happens, and he straight up looked in the camera and said, it does not matter how many kids get hurt. You cannot use that to take away rights from people. What? You just told me the complete opposite last week, 7 days ago, man. Like, there is no ideology here other than saying whatever the fuck is convenient to own the libs and make your audience literally like foam at the mouth with the behavior.
Was he ever a liberal?
I believe he probably was. Maybe when he was at Occupy in 2011. I mean, he was a liberal in the sense that, I remember Tim Pool. He told me this, that the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, when I worked there back in 2011 during Occupy, he said to me that we were the first media outlet to ever book him for an interview. So apologies, by the way. I helped create the monster, I guess. I'm the one who reached out to him too to book him. But anyway, he was down there like every day, very early on, 24/7 streams. This is before YouTube was even like the live streaming platform. He was doing streams on Justin.tv, which is now known as Twitch, and Ustream.tv, which is now like just like an enterprise live streaming company that just deals with like helping major corporations do like company live streams. So that was early on then. And then I remember I specifically remember that a lot of, anarchists down there and like anti-fascists down there explicitly had a problem with the way he was doing things, because he would be filming 24/7. And if he saw anarchists or anti-fascists doing something, he would usually go and follow that and get them on camera. Like I remember specifically, he live streamed a bunch of like black bloc people, puncturing the tire of like a cop car or something like that. down at the Occupy protest. And they would get into arguments, like, get out of my face, don't record me. And like, I remember at the time thinking like, all right, there is like, I get both positions. There's a fine line between, if you're out there in public and you're doing journalistic work and you want to get the entire thing, I get that. Everything going on, I get that. But there's also a fine line in terms of like actively putting yourself into the story by getting right up in people's faces. So I sort of got both sides.
So would he just film what was going on? Would he go in their faces and like make himself a part of it?
We're talking over 10 years ago now. This is just strictly from memory. I remember just thinking like, I don't know what side I come down on this because I see both sides here. I do think if you're filming protests, you get everything. I also think you get everything, but you don't actively go out of your way to try to get up in someone's face or to specifically get identities on camera in that way. If someone happens to walk by your camera or someone's on your camera and their identity is found, what can you do about it? But you don't want to like straight up get up in their face like that. I don't recall if how involved Tim got, but that was, long story short, that was the earliest controversy I remember Tim Pool getting involved in. So at least during his Occupy days, he didn't seem to have an affinity for Antifa or anarchists, left-wing anarchists who decided to, do illegal civil disobedience actions.
So I guess so he's always kind of been of this political persuasion. Would you say he's gotten worse or better?
Oh, I would have thought he was just like your run-of-the-mill lib back then. Like, I'm sure like a lot of liberals would poo-poo like, don't do that to a cop car's tire or whatever. So like, yeah, I just thought he was like that. From what I've read, like that's when he went off the grid for me in terms of any contact with him. But from what I understand, he went on to Fusion and then Vice, and he did not have good relationships with his coworkers, and he basically ended up going further down this right-wing rabbit hole when it came to this. I forgot who it was. I think it was Prison Planet Paul of the InfoWars multiverse. He went on this whole tangent in like the mid 2010s about how like all these migrants went to like were invading Sweden or something like that, and you couldn't walk through the people of Sweden or I can't remember, or Switzerland. Don't quote me on the country. It's one of those Nordic places. They could no longer walk in certain time. Was just so much there due to all these migrants living there now. And Prison Paul publicly like said, I will pay for any journalist to go prove this, when he received some blowback for it. And Tim Pool took him up on the offer, and he went down there and basically found nothing, but still tried to arrange the video in a way where it showed that Prison Paul had some sort of truth in what he was saying. And I mean, what
was the evidence he ended up providing?
I don't even remember. I don't even remember. It was something so ridiculous that like, if you look it up online, film with him, she's even like against him now. If I recall, like she thinks. She took part in that production, and I believe she stood by the production, if I recall, maybe. But she's even like, yeah, he distorted it. I filmed what I filmed, and that was all legit, but he edited it in a way, if I recall. Again, this is going off memory now. Don't quote me on that part. But I do recall her being.
Hey,
yeah, what's up?
I wanna, before I forget, didn't you wanna you destroyed my debate today?
Oh, right. People are asking, all right. So we were talking about it on your Twitch stream right before I went live on my YouTube and Twitch stream. But basically, I reached out to you, like, was it last night or earlier today? I was like, hey, you want to come on the show? Earlier today. Because I was like, hey, you want to come on the show? Because I thought, oh, the FTX episode about the Ukrainian conspiracies on my other show, Scam Economy. Let me do a Ukraine-related episode on Doomed as well. And it'll be, it'll all work out. Get cross cross podcast listening going on.
Cross the streams.
Yeah, crossing the streams. And so I reached out to you, and you're like, "Oh, can we do 10 p.m.? I'm debating a conservative at 8 p.m." And so I, who always loves to talk with right wingers, I said, "Oh man, can I get in on that?" And apparently, you reached out to this. Who is it, by the way, if you can share?
His name is Lecture Fan.
Lecture Fan, don't know who he is.
He's a small conservative content creator. He did reschedule though. He rescheduled.
That's good. That's good though. Good. Small creators, large creators. I talk to them all. So I you according to you, this is where it's not my story anymore, but according to you,
now
reached out.
Story, yeah.
Go ahead. You reached out to him. Take it from there.
Yeah, I basically sent him like a message, and I'm like, hey. Dude, like I got this guy Matt Binder. He kind of wants to come on as well. He wanted to talk to me, and so would you be open to talking to him? And immediately he's like, I actually can't come on today anymore. Can we reschedule? And I was like, can we do tomorrow at like same time? He's like, sure, perfect. And so we just rescheduled for tomorrow. I don't know if it was you, Matt. Okay, I don't know if it was you. But it was, I don't know. He said he had something happen in his life. Who knows what happened in his life? But I mean, it could be you, Matt. I mean, you're a terrifying influence. I mean, if you look at if I tilt my head enough, you kind of look like Destiny a little bit too.
Oh
so
no!
Someone
said I every now and then to see what's going on in the world surrounding with the work I put out there. I do Google my name every now and then, and a Reddit thread on the Destiny subreddit came up, asking, who the fuck is this Destiny lookalike? And they were talking about me when I was on Lauren Chen's Odyssey midterm election stream.
Oh yeah, Destiny and you were on that. It started like completely full of conservatives. And by the end of it, it was like mostly lefties at the end of it. Like the conservatives had to kind of like fled the castle.
Right. I said something. It came down to like I came on and it was Lauren, and Robbie Starstruck, whatever his name is, Michael Tracy, Lydia from Tim Pool's show, and Destiny. And I came on, and then Ben Burgess came on, and then in just like a span of like 10 minutes, it came down to like Lauren, me, Destiny, Ben Burgess, and I think Lydia, who was being very quiet to begin with, so she was barely even on. And so it did end up being a left-wing show for a minute, and I was like, what is a left-leaning? I know Destiny.
You were looking for blood, weren't you? You wanted some blood, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't want to be on a I like talking to you guys, obviously, that's why I invited you on my show, but it's a completely different experience. Like, yeah, I want to talk to you guys when I want to like grab a topic and go in depth on a topic, and we both talk about, from our expertise about this topic. But if I'm going on a conservative or a right-wing stream, I'm looking to go mano a mano. Let's do this. Come on.
Exactly. You're looking for something interesting, something entertaining, something people can turn on and kind of sit down and consume. You're looking to see a clash of ideas, the free marketplace of ideas. You're looking for it, okay? You're trying to be a free market guy here, something that you would expect they would love. But at times it can be quite difficult, definitely in this space, to book those types of appearances.
It's so weird because I have made it clear, and I've said this before, that whatever I think of Tim Pool, he had me on his show.
True.
And so, that's the thing I always say. Put your money where your mouth is, and I'm always available to talk to anyone. Like, that's what I love about what's-his-face, PragerU, Dennis Prager. He's out there going, I can't find any leftists to debate. They're all scared. He said this like the day after I was sitting in that same chair on the Tim Pool show. Like, he was in the chair I was sitting on just days after I was on going, no leftists want to debate me. It's so bizarre. And then Sam Cedar reaches out to him and says, I'll debate you. And he goes, I will not debate Sam Cedar because he's not worth my time. Bullshit. You put it on the line. I'll debate any. You could be a 5 follower right winger. And my phone line is open whenever I stream for you to call in. In fact, if you message me and say, hey, I'm calling in to debate you, you go to the front of the line on the phone calls.
Amen. Amen. That's the type. That's the type of mindset I like to see. That warrior spirit. I don't know what it is, but I think I think what it is when we have this, and I see it happen every once in a while. Somebody will say, "The left will never debate me," and then they'll say, "I'll debate you," and it's like, "No, not you." It's the thing is they want high reward, low risk situations. They want to debate some kind of posh, like, I don't know, MSNBC columnist who's just like a contributor, maybe not even somebody who's like camera ready, right? They want that, or they want some like megastar, like they want to debate AOC. But if they wanted, but they don't want to talk to people who like their whole jobs is to like talk and like have conflict online and debate. That's why you're not going to see like Dennis Prager debate Vosh, Destiny, me, you, or anybody who like does this more often and like might actually give like I think significant pushback, because he's not going to get anybody from our audience. I'm going to be for real. I don't think he is. He's not going to get much from debating us outside of like the content he makes from it. And so I think for him it's like it's high risk, low reward. It's a lot easier to just like debate some suit.
All right, and then like I'm sure people who come in and are listening to us right now probably like, oh, they're a bunch of debate bros or whatever. Like, I don't even care. Like, I'm not even like, I'm literally like, you want to call into me, I'm happy to have this conversation. I mean, I love it, but I'm not going out like debate me, you chicken. No, if you want me, here I am. Message me. DM me. You can call into the show if you want to set up a specific scheduled time to do this. I'm happy to schedule one. I mean, I've done one with Michael Tracy where I got him to admit that he doesn't ask any experts in his reporting. He's like, look for any sources. He said he told me he didn't think it was necessary, and I could not believe he said that live.
I had a 5-hour debate with Michael Tracy yesterday. 5 hours of talk with Michael Tracy. That guy has the gift of gab.
Yes, he can't stop. Right, that's what happens.
He is an engine, man. He just chugga chewing along. I was able to go back and forth. I can make 4 videos. 4 separate videos out of that one talk, most of them over an hour long, one of them over 2.5 hours long. It's ridiculous that I can make a video that long out of it. And The thing is, I feel like we could have covered all of the ground we covered probably in an hour if we just weren't as verbose about the conversation.
He does so many asides, and he meanders. But again, like I say, no matter all the things I think of Michael Tracy,
he came on.
He does these, so that I will give him credit for. You know, if you are someone who actually is open to talk, you will, you know, whatever I think about you for everything else, there is you get a little bit of credit for me for that one thing. Because if you know what's the point of any of this shit if you're not willing to engage with somebody? What's the point of doing, unless you're just like scared and you realize you've been able to foment so much anger that you got this nice little tight-knit group of supporters, and God forbid if you pop that bubble, you're so insecure if someone comes in and pops that bubble, you might lose them. So you don't want to engage, you just pretend no one wants to talk with you. I got no respect for that. What's the point of doing this? You're just doing it because you're a grifter, straight up. I'm not saying that people who have debates aren't grifting, but you know, you're not worried about the grift being being popped that easily at the very least. I mean, it's so bizarre. Like, just put your money where your mouth is and engage with people who you disagree with. The thing is too, like, when people are so scared of talking with some of us, and it's like, me personally, and anyone who's ever watched any of my debates can say so, like, I'm actually really fucking nice. Like, I don't get any joy in like yelling and being mean. I usually calm as a cucumber. What I like to do is I like to just let them trip themselves up into a corner. I mean, I don't need to yell at you. You're gonna give me all the content I need yourself.
I guess for me, like, I didn't get involved in politics because I was like, I just want to say what I believe to a group of people who already believe it, right? The point of politics is you're trying to bring people over to your side so you can impact the issues that you care about. So if I just spent all day just going to people who support Ukraine and saying, Ukraine still deserves support, huh? Then they would say, woo, and then we're done. Like, I mean, it just, I don't understand the point to it outside of just making money and basically just participating in a circle jerk. I mean, I guess you can keep them up to date, but the whole point of, I think a lot of people who got into commentary and politics was to change people's minds, not necessarily to make the money, but that the money might be good, and maybe that becomes a priority. It sometimes can be financial. I think other times it's just generally pride and fear that they might be embarrassed in front of their community. Not even that they might lose it, but like getting embarrassed publicly can be pretty humiliating for people. Like it's kind of hard to like for a lot of people to grasp like 100,000 people watching you humiliate yourself in a debate. And I think that's also a big motivator. Like a lot of people like do a lot of probably calculus before they agree to debates. Right, like, ooh, okay, can I do this? Can I win in this situation? Am I able to do it? Which I understand that. I do understand it, but let's not pretend that people don't engage in that.
Right. No, absolutely. But here's the thing though, like unless you do something embarrassing, like you really blow it in an embarrassing way, and I've debated people who've done that. What basically happens in these debates are one side agrees with the person they came to watch, the other side agrees with the person they came to watch, and there are a few people who cross over. So even if you do a terrible debate performance, unless you embarrass yourself to the point where your fans are embarrassed that you represent them, you're not really going to lose much right away. But the seeds will be planted in certain individuals. And that's where like for example, like I had people call in after the Tim Pool appearance, and it's clear they weren't like progressives watching Tim Pool. These were right-wingers watching Tim Pool, or people who were politically confused. And sometimes they came on and were like, oh, I thought you did great and made a lot of good points. Other times they called in and they were combative right off the bat. And I was like, listen, let's talk a little bit. Because see, when it comes to like the influencers and the media heads, I'll get a little bit, I want to trip them up and be I want, that's the whole.
You want to win.
Yeah.
Everybody, look. I agree with Douglas MacArthur on one thing. You enter a war to win. The same thing is true about debates.
Right, but for the average person, for the non-media pundit, for the regular, normal, everyday American who doesn't create content and just consumes, whether it be whoever. When they call in, I'm like, oh, let's get on the level here. Like, what's something that, where can we agree? And by the end of those conversations, 9 times out of 10, I had these guys going like, you make a lot of good points. I never looked at it that way. It's like, it's really simple stuff to like, but that's what they're afraid of, right? Like, because here's the thing. We know there are very few, if any, at least when it comes, maybe like, more mainstream left-leaning pundits have to worry about this, but like someone like you or me who have like pretty hardcore leftist watching us, we know they're not going to watch us debate a right-winger and be like, stray off and be like, oh, how could I think everyone deserved healthcare? How wrong I was. But for these right-wing media figures, they really have a lot of people who aren't so, hardcore in their political positions.
Especially I think on the online community, right wing, and this is true of left wing, of some left wing creators as well. It's all culture. It's all culture war, like movies and TV and like, oh, the fucking black character and this and this. And if that's all your engagement with politics has been, you don't know really shit about economics. You don't know anything about like racism and systematic oppression or war and conflict and like taxes. This isn't stuff you learn from like complaining about the Batman movie, right? Or the Star Wars movie. So I think like a lot of times it's like the first dose of reality a lot of those people in particular kind of face. I would say somebody like what's that? Oh God, what's his name? He's got like the big beard. He's like a hardcore like one of those social critics. Fuck, what's his name?
The Quartering?
The Quartering. It's like the Quartering's fans. That's like the perfect like example I would point to. Like, do you think like those people really like would be able to really know how to guide themselves through a conversation about like complex economic issues? Probably not. And right. I think that for a lot of people, it's engaging the people who are just kind of tacitly involved in politics because something they care about was tied to it, like the culture issues.
No, absolutely. I mean, the Quartering basically all he is the culture war outrage. I don't think he talks about any sort of politics in terms of like actual policy, or even like the horse race stuff. Even he's strictly cultural issues, right-wing, like a right-wing YouTuber just on cultural issues. I mean, those people, I think, are the viewers, I should say, of that content are the most easy to sort of, if you could get in front of them, so easy to maybe, and it's not a priority. I want to get this straight. These right wingers, even if they're brainwashed and they're following whatever they're following because they don't know any better, if you're looking to win elections or whatever, you don't waste your time on these guys. This is a much longer project. If you're looking to win elections, you go out there and find normal, everyday people who are completely apolitical or out of the political bubble, and you talk with them. You talk with non-voters even. They're more likely to come to your side, and vote and help get good candidates and good policy through. Don't waste your time on right wingers for that type of stuff. But in terms of this longer project, I think a lot of these culture war right wingers, just really angry young men looking for an outlet, looking for a scapegoat. It's the same thing we see with like how white supremacists have traditionally, grown their ranks. Like white supremacist organizations, like legitimate, white supremacist groups, skinhead groups.
Mm-hmm.
They would find a young person who's down on their luck. Shit's going really bad. Family life sucks. Home life is bad. No job prospects. Bullied maybe at school. Whatever it may be. And they go, yeah, the reason this shit's happening, the reason you can't find a job or whatever, it's immigrants. The reason you're the one thing you look what's happening to your one escape, your favorite TV show or comic book. They're taking away the guy that encapsulates that you can see yourself in, and they're turning that superhero into a woman or a gay person. And it's all of a sudden they have something to direct that anger to. I mean, that's, these are very obvious examples. It's way more complex than that in many cases, but it's that's their politics. Their politics is these people who to me represent progressivism, or even liberals or leftists or whatever. They are the reason my life sucks. And so I hate that. I hate that.
Did you see the Milo Yiannopoulos interview on Tim Pool's show where he's talking to Tim Pool about the midterm results, and while he's talking to Tim Pool about the midterm results, Tim Pool's kind of trying to sell it more as a conservative victory, like, oh well, we still won the House, and like Milo's like, no, we didn't win. Was for many people was to see the people they don't like suffer, the person who's been hurting them and been against them the evil people for the last 2 years. We wanted to watch them suffer. That's what people wanted this midterm. And I think a lot of it's like that. They need a villain, something to take it out on. And I think a lot of times it becomes almost cartoonish in fashion. Definitely when you look at how people behave around this midterm or in 2020, how like, saw the people like praying out of Maricopa County, like just hoping the votes come in for Trump and stuff like that. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, Joe Biden's going to come in here, get into office, and the main difference that's going to happen to your life is you might get another direct payment into your bank account because of COVID, maybe some student debt. Really, like, your life isn't really going to change that much, if at all, for the worse. And they're acting like the fucking world's ending, and it's because because Joe Biden has been turned into a cartoon character, a villainous cartoon character.
Yeah, the funny thing about that though is like even the hardest they've tried to turn Joe Biden into this character, they can't muster up the energy from their base to hate Joe Biden as much as they hated Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Like, I hate to say it, but Joe Biden for this time right now seems to be like the perfect foible for them. Like, they can't crack how to get their base to care about Joe Biden. Like, what do they got? They call him demented or something, or he's lost his mind, he's senile. He's an old guy. You can say that about any old guy. But, like, they can't get them to hate Joe Biden in the way they were able to get them to hate Obama and Hillary. It's so funny to watch. And also based on, like, you mentioned, like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Milo is right in terms of the defeat. Like, to spin this in any, like, to spin this any other way is ridiculous. Because unless Democrats held onto the House by big numbers, this actually is like a best case scenario.
Basically,
because those Senate seats, they're held for 6 years now. Like
Yep.
John Fetterman is in the Senate for 6 years in that supposed
Oh, dude,
swing.
that's a big win for the progressives in the country too. Because John Fetterman, like we didn't know if he was gonna get in there for sure, and like the stroke was a massive like I honestly thought because of the stroke he could lose
No,
because
I thought
I know how I thought the stroke could do it would depend on like how bad it was, but he got like the fact that John Fetterman won after having a stroke mid campaign and having a debate having still the effects of that stroke very ever present and him being open about that, I think just shows like the strength of not only him as a candidate, as like an authentic candidate going up against somebody who was an obvious carpetbagger, Doc Hollywood, Dr. Oz. 54% of Pennsylvanians leaving exit polls said that Dr. Oz was not Pennsylvanian enough, to be their senator. The strength of his ideas and of his authenticity, I think, was really what pulled him over the line there.
right. No, yeah, I agree. Also, though, it also depended on how they would treat it, the Republicans, and instead of being human beings about it, which they seemingly can't be, they decided to use his temporary disability against him and attack him for suffering the stroke. And again, because of who they are, they think that would play. Where in reality, the vast majority of Americans looked at that and said, hey, I know someone who suffered from a stroke. I suffered from a stroke. They were completely fine. They struggled with their speech. I know how it's like. I respect him for doing that, knowing he's completely fine and can do the job. He's just going to have to fight really hard to overcome this temporary disability. I don't like what they're saying about John Fetterman because John Fetterman could be me or my mom or my grandparent or my brother or whatever. I mean, they really did not understand what they were doing there.
I remember actually, I talked to my grandmother 2 days ago, and John Fetterman somehow came up in conversation, and I remember saying like, I was kind of worried because of the stroke, and she was like, I really like John Fetterman because of that. Like he fought through it, and that's like some difficult stuff. I appreciate that. Like it just made him relatable, and he's already like an extremely relatable politician compared to senators, how they usually are. Like John Fetterman, just like he's just a big guy in shorts and a hoodie, and he just looks like your uncle. He just looks like the like a fun uncle. He honestly, I felt weird when he put on a suit when he actually won, and I saw him in a suit. I felt uncomfortable. I felt like he should be in the Senate in a hoodie. I feel like it's betraying his roots almost. He's betraying his roots. He can't lose his hoodie base. But like, yeah, that was really received very, very, very well. I think I was really surprised about that because I don't have a lot of confidence when it comes to how voters will react to health scares. Because I remember how it affected Bernie. I remember how that stumbling affected Hillary, and I was worried that type of thing could happen to Fetterman.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, it was a worry to have, sure. I definitely understand where that was coming from. I mean, once I saw how they were going after him, I was like, this is not going to play. This is not going to play. But what I wanted to say about the House was that now that Republicans are taking control of the House, and just by a handful of seats, and why I mean this is the best case scenario, like unless Democrats completely held on to like a large majority in the House, this is the best case scenario because Democrats will now be able to tell the American people in 2 years the reason why shit sucks and nothing got done the past 2 years is because the Republicans took over the fucking House and blocked every good thing they wanted to do. It is going to, and they won't be able to do anything with these slim numbers they have because there are still some.
Wait a second. They're gonna get to the bottom of this Hunter Biden thing. Okay,
yes,
they're
I can't
gonna,
wait.
They're gonna do it. Don't worry.
That's the end of Hunter Biden's political career.
Yeah,
that's it. He's done.
Hey, Matt. I've talked to a few website designers. I wanted to launch a Hunter Biden 2024 campaign. I want him to replace Joe. I want to go from one Biden to another. I want to go 2 terms of Biden, and then I want to go into Hunter. I think we should continue the Biden legacy. The thing is, people don't like Joe because he's sleepy. Now, I think Hunter Biden would be a lot of things, but he wouldn't be sleepy. I think he'd be the perfect candidate. Let's get Hunter to run.
Yeah. We should, right? Yeah, it's really like they live in a bubble. They really do. Like they really think, and you see it in their memes and everything. Like whenever you see like you're scrolling your feed and there's a conservative replying to something you said in an attempt to own you, and you're looking and you're reading it and you're like, what does this mean? And then you look and it's like, oh, it's some inside joke that only like
Yeah.
1,000 super far right wingers on Twitter get. I mean, they can't. There's no skill in messaging. There's no, because they think they are the majority. They think the vast, like, it's the same reason they try to explain
Wait,
away
did
why
you
they lose
see-
elections. They're
did you-
losing elections because there's fraud, not because the majority of people don't want them.
Did you see Benny Johnson on Charlie Kirk's show during the midterms?
It was fantastic.
He got so angry, like, they didn't do any fucking. He was throwing pens and shit, just talking about how the Republicans didn't message, that they didn't get their agenda out there, which is, I think this is something that hasn't been talked about a lot during this midterm. I think the Republicans failed to offer an alternative. They basically did what Hillary did in 2016. It just said, hey, we're not, she said, I'm not Trump. They said, we're not Biden. And that really wasn't that effective because they're going to be like, oh, why aren't you Biden? And then they're going to talk about Hunter Biden. The amount of ad time that was wasted on Hunter Biden is actually glorious, because all the time they're wasting launching investigations into Hunter Biden and spending times doing these ads on Hunter Biden is like time they could be like attacking actual things that could do damage to Joe Biden. I don't think the Hunter Biden thing is going to do any damage to him. I think they're wasting their time, and I don't think it connects with everyday Americans, because it's really easy for Joe Biden to be like, you know, my family's been through a lot of suffering, and my son's addiction was part of that, and he made a lot of rash decisions during his addiction process, as many Americans went through, and then it's done. It's over. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go after the parent whose kid is addicted to drugs. You think that's gonna play well in Ohio? Like, I just don't think it's gonna work. I don't think it's gonna work. But that seems to be the strategy moving forward. And it seems that the party's getting more and more controlled by these radicals like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are getting their committee seatings back. And I think they're going to be the ones basically leading the charge on this. So not only is it going to be they're going after Hunter Biden, they're going to be going after Hunter Biden in the craziest way possible, saying the most batshit like nonsense you can imagine. Did you see like the list of crimes they gathered for like Joe Biden? That it included kidnapping. It's insane. The investigations, and that's what they're going to waste their majority on, is going to be Hunter Biden fucking bullshit for the next 2 years. And so it means as a streamer, I'm going to have a lot of content to react to. So that's great. So honestly, I'm in favor of it.
You're missing the mark with the Benny Johnson video, though, because I watched that video over and over again. He wasn't complaining just about the messaging, because that would make too much sense. And we're talking about Benny Johnson. Sure. What he was complaining about was that Republicans weren't making enough memes and video clips for him to share. And he was like, if I saw, he was like, there was no memes, there was no clips. And then he goes, if I saw Kevin McCarthy doing something based, and he goes, based, like a little fool, like a weirdo, like a 40-year-old man or however old he is, trying to really badly connect with like 18 and 19-year-olds. I mean, it was sad, man. It was sad. But one thing I did see was all this like Monday morning quarterbacking, where they were like, we focused too much on the transgender cultural stuff. That's why we lost. Americans don't care about that. And literally the next fucking day, they go right back to just strictly talking about gender identity. They don't learn. They don't learn because they cannot. They're on one mode. They have one mode. There's no dial to get them off anything else but cultural issues that are increasingly a losing argument for them, because they have nothing to offer the American people. Nothing.
I think it's that. I think it's they have to distract people with cultural issues because they don't have a good pitch. I don't think they have an alternative to offer. If I was to ask people, like, what was your number one issue? Inflation and then abortion with the second one. But the first one's inflation. Like, great. So who's better on the economy? Republicans. Okay. What's their plan to deal with inflation? Nobody has an answer. If you were to ask the Biden supporter that, they could say the Inflation Reduction Act. You don't need to agree. You don't even need to agree that it reduced inflation to say, like, boom, you have something you can show tangibly. You don't have that for the Republicans. You don't have any, like, what was their proposal to deal with inflation? Like, do you know? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows because they didn't talk about it. So it was just like not offering an alternative and distracting you with cultural issues. And if I'm being completely honest, I also think, and I think we know this as content creators, that the stuff that actually wins elections and sometimes has the like best impact in getting voters to turn over, especially like the independent voters you need to win these things, are not always the issues that get the most views on fucking Facebook and twat and the YouTubes and the Twitches. I do think that me talking about Kanye West is maybe going to get a lot of views because it's Kanye West, it's anti-Semitism, it's topical. But if I start running a campaign on Kanye West, or all of our political engagement is just fucking talking about Kanye West, that's not going to get a vote for me. Standing up for Kanye, censorship, or something, whatever they're doing on the conservative shows, that's not going to get them any new votes. That's only stuff that their audience is going to circle jerk about because they already agree with it. The people you could possibly motivate by like talking about these stories are already motivated to go vote against Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the evil demon rats anyway. So it doesn't really help them, but it gets you a lot of money and a lot of views because the people who do care about it fervently. And so the problem is that they're just singing to a far right base, but they're not singing to the American people generally.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. They had nothing. They had nothing. But the stuff that they sell and pitch to their base, they got enough people lapping it up. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens next, because this next election is gonna be a big one. It's gonna be a really big one because it determines where they decide to go in terms of the face of the party. And I mean, I talked last week about this with David Dole. But like, I don't see, I mean, honestly, best case scenario for us is that Trump wins the primary.
Thank you. You agree with me. Let's roll the dice, baby. Woo! I'm ready to roll the dice. I'm ready for it.
Honestly, I actually like, this is how crazy the Republican Party has gotten. I actually really do think Donald Trump is the least dangerous of all of the people who want to run, like Ron DeSantis. Look, like I still estimate that if it was, if it wasn't for, and
what about Mike Pence?
Oh, he would be horrible. All these guys are talented at giving off the aura that they are very serious people. I mean, and that's the thing that made most people not like Trump. Like, unfortunately, I wish everybody, and I should say there's a lot of people, maybe even a majority, who didn't like him for who he is and what he wanted to do. But there was also a good percentage of people who Trump lost them because they simply were like, I don't like that he uses potty mouth language, or he's filthy mouth, or I don't like that
it's the Twitter. They always say Twitter.
He's wasting his time on Twitter. No, I'm happy he wasted his time on Twitter. That was great, but that was the best. He should waste more time on social media if he ever got elected to office again. For me, I mean, if it wasn't for that pandemic, and I held on to the pandemic, even when people were saying Trump was the worst, no, the Bush administration was far more destructive than the Trump administration sans the pandemic. I mean, because what you had was Bush and Cheney, the smooth operators. Like, you could say what you want to say about Bush, about how he was like a funny guy or whatever.
Cheney was a killer, though, man.
Cheney was the operator. And, Bush wasn't dumb in that sense. Like, he played his part. He played his role.
What scares me most of... There's a lot of things that scares me about Dick Cheney. I'm very interested in the man because he's politically brilliant, but he's also politically brilliant for the worst ideas possible.
He's a psychopath.
The thing that really gets me is he always knew his place. Like, he was he knew, like, what I mean, like, is he's not an extremely fun guy. He's not a likable guy. He just looks like the type of guy that'd be willing to, like, throw your baby into a wood chipper in order to like get $1, right? He just doesn't look that happy. I think he always understood that his role was never to be the face of the party, but to always be a backroom operator. And that's the thing that scared me, is people terrify me the most when they know what they're the best at, because that's where they're going to be the most effective at getting their agenda done. And he was very good at that. where Trump has no clue what he's good at. He has no clue what he's doing. And I think that's an advantage that you have with Donald Trump is he's constantly making mistakes and fucking himself over. But I disagree, though, that Trump would be less harmful than Ron DeSantis or Mike Pence. And the reason why, okay, now you're about to enter the free marketplace of ideas, bucko. The reason why is Trump is more gutsy. He's a lot more gutsy. Trump is the type of person who's willing to like just flip a coin on like legitimately trying to steal the election. What he did when he called the Secretary of State of Georgia is not something Mike Pence would do. That's not something Ron DeSantis would do. He's willing to break lines that other politicians wouldn't be because they understand it's too risky, even on just a legal precedent. There's a reason why Donald Trump's home got raided is because he's willing to do stuff in order to get his home raided. And so if he ever got the reins of power again, I have no reason to believe that he wouldn't take another risk on something like a Secretary of State phone call, and maybe next time he'd be more successful. Or we've seen Mike Pence put in a similar situation before, and he's despicable, but he's not as gutsy. Mike Pence is many things, but nervous is probably up near the top of the list. He's very calculated in everything he does. He's not going to take gigantic risks. And so I do think that Donald Trump has the potential to be more of a destructive force for our democracy and a destructive force for our country and around the globe. A great example would be his flip-flopping on northeastern Syria, which got a lot of people killed and started a Turkish invasion.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah.
But I still hope he's the nominee.
Yeah.
Because I think he'll lose. Because the Democrats did the whole flip the coin thing this election on a lot of candidates, and a lot of people were really scared about Democrats funding far right candidates or wanting the far right candidates to win by like running ads to basically like have them be the winner. And a lot of people were scared because like, isn't that the 2016 strategy? But every place Democrats did that this election, it ended up working actually. It's a high risk, high reward is the game, and I'm just saying, let's spin the roulette wheel one more time. Come on, let's do it, baby.
No, absolutely. But there's a difference between playing that dangerous game with people who you don't know how they're going to perform, and then the situation where we know Joe Biden can beat Trump, and he's done it before.
My goodness, I do. Yeah, that is true. Joe Biden is the one person who has shown he's able to beat Trump in the general election. And the thing is with Trump is when presidents leave office, you kind of see their approval rating start to go up again. You know, what is the idea? Absence sees the heart grow fonder is the idea. That just didn't happen for Donald Trump. Like his polling hasn't gone up that much. It's gone up like a few points from the low of January 6th, and then it's been stagnant ever since. And he just announced he's running for president again, and it hasn't skyrocketed. It hasn't gone up. So I don't see any fondness from the American people, right? I don't see any them wanting him back. And I do think he's most likely to be the candidate. I just don't think there's going to be any desire from people to return to the chaos of the Trump era. Because it feels like if there's anything that Trump is, like people call him like a Molotov to the establishment. I think people are sick of the house burning.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. I think you're spot on there, honestly. In terms of why. First of all, the idea that anyone would think that someone would be better to put forward than Trump. Like, I also think it's great that Trump is going to straight up destroy, future Republican presidential candidates. Like anyone who dares to run against him is going to be annihilated.
Oh,
even
yes.
in ways you cannot even imagine.
Did you hear the Ron DeSantis rumors about Donald Trump in the story with the magazine and the stripper?
No.
So there's a rumor. Now this is all rumor. But it has been reported on, and I believe a few accredited news outlets, like credible news outlets, that and Donald Trump's kind of hinted at it in public, like, hey, I got stuff. I always got stuff in my back pocket. But the idea is, this is the rumor, that he has a story about Ron DeSantis going to hotels and getting spanked by strippers with magazines with his own face on it. And Donald Trump might have that story on lock in case Ron DeSantis runs against him. That would be fantastic. I would be very excited about that drama.
Yeah, I would very much look forward to I mean, I want them really badly to focus on this stuff because it's so funny that they really think this is going to help them win.
Yeah, okay, now my chat's angry at me kink shaming. I'm not kink shaming. If he wants to be spanked with his own face, that's his own business, okay? He's a free American. That's you can do it. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even really talk about what's going on your end in terms of Ukraine.
Oh, on my end. Well, I'm trying to plan my trip back. I want to go in January, February. I'm setting up a bunch of interviews with like aid workers and locals and trying to figure out like what stories I want to do and trying to set it up in advance. On my end, dude, the most recent like conversation I think was noteworthy that I had about Ukraine was probably with like Michael Tracy last night. You want to know? It was a really strange conversation. Because you and I both know what Michael Tracy believes about Ukraine, right? Like if I was to ask you what like if he's a supporter of Ukraine, what would you say? No, right? Like not the answer would be no.
He's definitely not. No,
He's definitely not.
He would say he wasn't. He's just against like I don't know any sort of foreign intervention or something like that. I'm guessing.
I think that I tried to get him to answer whether he would be in favor of sending aid to Ukraine, yes or no, and it took me an hour to get him to answer the question, and I had to like add like a million addendums, a million things, and I feel there's a lot of commentary online where people are very willing to like kind of spitball on issues, but then float above it so they don't have to take any like moral like a burden of ever having to make a decision about anything because sometimes choices are hard. A great example would be leaving Afghanistan. It like you can say you want to leave Afghanistan, but then you also have to accept the consequences of the Taliban are very brutal and what are they going to do to women. And my ultimate decision was we should still leave, right? And I can get into specifics about why I made that decision, but I had to make that moral choice. And I feel like a lot of times some people don't want to make those choices, but they want to commentate on issues because they kind of just want to float above it. They don't want to be able to have anything like held to them. They don't want to be held to anything, you know, never committing to anything, kind of slippery. You know what I mean? That was the thing that I heard most from the conversation. It was very slippery.
Yeah. Yeah, he likes
Very polite though. It was a very polite conversation.
I will say that he's not like the others. He does want to actually. If all the people I've had debates with, he does seem like the one who most wants to have an actual conversation with.
True.
He wants to have an actual conversation. I mean, you could tell by the way he can go on tangents for forever. But you know, he does really try to focus on very specific wording instead of like the actual meaning behind the words. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Now, if you want to talk about Ukraine, the last time we talked, it was I was still in Ukraine, I believe, and this was before the liberation of Kherson. This is a kind of like correlated with the midterms, and I don't feel like it got the amount of attention it deserved because it was so rapid. It happened so quick, just like it was like months of fighting for like inches, and then like in 3 days they just took everything. And the amount of like images and amazing feedback that I've gotten from people now like liberating Kherson and families that are reuniting, I think this really shows like the impact that aid can have. Because the large reason why the Russians had to abandon Kherson and they didn't even fight for it after claiming it was going to be like their next Stalingrad or whatever was because American provided rockets screwed up their logistics so poorly that it was impossible for them to transport goods over the river without using a ferry, which slowed down the whole process. And so I view this as largely an achievement not only of Ukraine but of the international support to Ukraine. And so I want to ask people, and I want to ask you, Matt, looking at Ukraine's position now, what I look at this war kind of like, okay, Ukraine has a real chance of winning. We should fight it to win. And once all like those avenues are thoroughly burnt up, then we'll say, okay, let's negotiate and see what we can get if they're not willing to give us everything and we've tried everything else. Why do you think there's so much pushback against that idea, that the idea of Ukraine fighting a war to win? Because it feels like there's a lot of people who are really scared of that idea. People are scared of Ukraine winning.
I think it's I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I think it's an easy way, I guess, to attack Democrats because they are the ones who have the White House and are funding the aiding the sending over the aid to Ukraine. Um, Previous beef maybe between Trump and Zelensky. Maybe they place blame on Ukraine for some of Trump's problems over the years. Um, Geez, I don't quite know why they're so, because it doesn't make any sense. Like you said, to leave now when Ukraine is winning, right? Like that doesn't make any sense because the
I
second we
mean,
do that, it's not like the war ends. It's on Russia to end the war. It's their war. They're the invaders. They can leave and end the war. Period. War over. But if we leave Ukraine hanging, then Russia will come in. And again, I've always said this too for people who are on the fence about this stuff. Like, you don't gotta do this for the Ukrainian government. Think about all the innocent people who live in Ukraine who will be brutalized and who will lose their home. And it's not like Russia just takes over and it's just a name change. You don't think there's going to be hell to pay for the Ukrainian citizens if Russia was to win this war? My heart goes out to the people who were involved in this in both Ukraine and Russia, the poor Russian citizens who have no part in this, who are suffering due to various reasons, whether it be getting drafted into this or how sanctions hurt them. I mean, they're the ones who are hurting. But again, the only way to stop this is for Russia to say no more. Ukraine says no more, and Russia continues with their invasion. Russia says no more, goes back to Russia, leaves Ukraine, war over. There's nothing left to do.
The thing that gets me about this specifically is a lot of people seem to be under the impression that if fighting was to stop now, then that means the violence is over. Like, we just need to get a ceasefire, and then everybody will be better because nobody's suffering and dying. And I think this is a failure on two reasons. The first reason is the Russians have used ceasefires before to prepare to be in a better position and then use it. And if there's anything the Russians need right now, it's time. They need time to fix their logistics. They need times to train soldiers that are poorly trained, being sent to the front line. They need to get supplies, which, to be quite frank, a lot of these soldiers are having to go out and buy their own medical supplies, or having to go out and buy literal fucking tampons to pad wounds because they don't have the correct equipment. They're getting rusty AKs. These are all problems they need to address. They have morale issues that need to be addressed. They need to switch out soldiers who have been on the front line for already 8 months, and like their mental fatigue is just too hard. The war fatigue. There's so many things that Russia needs to address, and a ceasefire right now that would not guarantee a peace deal and guarantee Ukrainian territorial sovereignty and safety into the future really is doing nothing, but you're kicking the can down the road. And so if you don't resolve this now, you're not saying, oh, I stopped the war. It's, I stopped the war for 5 years. I stopped the war for 6 years. Like, for example, if Abraham Lincoln, when the Confederacy seceded, was able to get a quick ceasefire, that doesn't solve the issue. That doesn't make the Confederacy come back into the Union. If you don't solve the issue, all you're doing is kicking the can down the road, and definitely in Russia's case, you're buying them time to fix all the problems. Because the thing is, the reason Russia had so many failures here wasn't only because they underestimated Ukraine, but was because they overestimated themselves. And the more time you give them, definitely when they're not being pressured by the Ukrainians, is more time they get to fix these issues and try again when they're better prepared next time. And they have a better estimation of their own strength and of Ukrainian strength and of the international community's support for Ukraine. So that's the first reason. The second reason that the violence doesn't stop is, even if they were to stop the wars from continuing, period, like they created this perfect agreement that meant Russia would never invade again, and the occupied territory they have now, they have engaged in horrific brutality, executions, rape, just torture, and honestly, we just heard from when it comes to children, it feels particularly touching for me, at least. It really has an impact on me. We're getting reports from Kherson that these places that adopted, what are they called? Places where they have adopted children. What are they called? adoption
orphanages.
orphanages. The owners of orphanages and the caretakers for the children would hide the children when the Russians came by, because the Russians would take them and deport them back to Russia because they don't have parents. Nobody's going to come looking for them. And then they can bring them to Russia, because now they're taking these people who are supposedly Ukrainian, but they're really Russians. They're just confused, and they can give them a proper Russian upbringing. And hey, it's technically not deportation because they annexed the territory. And so that led to a lot of children being deported and quite literally stolen. And so we're getting to the point where people are hiding children in floorboards, hoping the Russians don't take them away, right? That doesn't stop because you signed a peace deal. And I think for some people, they don't understand, definitely when we're living in the safety of the United States, when we've got the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean separating us from anything, a million different geographical reasons why we're impossible to invade. We're the most powerful nation on the planet. We haven't really faced a real threat like that since the Civil War. It's impossible to comprehend, I think, that there could be certain things worse than war. Subjugation can be considered by people who are subjugated as worse than war. There's a reason why we fought an independent struggle in the United States, why the Algerians fought an independent struggle, why the people in the Congo fought an independent struggle against colonialism, why the Vietnamese did, why many people did. It was because that subjugation was worse than the repercussions that would come from rebelling against their government. And so just because like war is bad does not mean that you need to immediately stop war if the consequence is that you have an even worse situation, or you're just delaying the war for later. So I feel like a lot of people whose desire is to save lives, they don't realize that for Ukrainians, a peace deal right now that enshrines these territorial annexations is like signing your neighbor's death warrant. You get to save some Ukrainians, not the ones still in occupied territory. And so when you see these videos of like liberation in Kherson, of these children getting to climb out from under the floorboards, of these people coming out and flying the yellow and blue flag after the Russians claimed that they evacuated the whole city, but then the city streets were still full of people, the Ukrainians who were waiting for the government to come back, and they were. I mean, the footage is honestly heartbreaking of how much they cared about liberation. I remember this one quote. It was along the lines of, "We don't have electricity. We don't have water supply. The Russians looted everything. But I'm in a free Ukraine, and that's all that matters right now." I feel like that is what Ukrainians are fighting for. That's what this war was about for Ukrainians. And to them, like that's something worth the struggle. And they're winning. Why when they can have more footage like that created through the liberation of more territory, whether it be Lysychansk or Severodonetsk, Mariupol, eventually, why they would stop and just give up. And so I think that a lot of people are really missing the mark when they say, "Oh, we need to stop the war right now and and just accept Russia's terms to end the suffering." You're just making the suffering different. You're just creating a different type of suffering, and you're making the suffering permanent.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, it's just like it's even so simple as just who started this and who can end it. Like I know that there are people who even in my chat right now are like, there's a go back and forth right now. There are certainly bad actors on the Ukrainian side, absolutely. And some people are also bringing up, the Donbass region and what's been going on. But what's been going on there has been like, what, 9 years now, 10 years now?
8 years. It's been
8 years?
It's been going on for 8 years.
2014, right? So that's 8 years. Yeah.
I've been to the Donbass. I went to Kramatorsk. I went there during the Russian offensive in the area. It was the last major city the Russians wanted to capture. The whole time we were there to film a dog shelter. And it was really weird filming the dog shelter because these dogs lived in really squalor conditions. But the thing is, like, who is going to take care of these dogs on the street who are getting injured by shrapnel or have been abandoned by their families fleeing the war? The fact that anyone is doing it at this point, when this is literally a frontline city, is incredible. I've been to a few dog shelters in the war, and that one was particularly squalor conditions because of how close it was to the fighting and how many people had run away. But while I was in the city and I talked to people, the conversations I was having was of real fear. When people talk about these Russian speakers in the Donbass, it is true that everybody I talked to over there, they spoke to me in Russian, or I had to get translators to go back and forth in Russian. But just because you speak Russian doesn't mean you want to be part of Russia. If you were to go to Ireland and say, wow, look at all these English people. They're all speaking English. Why aren't they part of England? Why aren't they part of the UK? You're disregarding like a big part of why they speak English, which is that it was forced upon them. The reason a lot of people in Ukraine speak Russian was because Ukrainian was banned. It was literally banned during the Russian Tsardom, and was still treated as kind of a backwater hillbilly language during the Soviet Union. And so just because you speak Russian doesn't mean you want to be part of Russia. You can speak Russian and still be culturally Ukrainian, identify as Ukrainian. And all the conversations I remember I had a conversation with a 60-year-old man. He was drunk as fuck during midday when there's shelling going on. And I'm like, okay, well, I can understand. Out of all the reasons why somebody could drink, this is a pretty decent reason. And I was interacting with him, and he had this gold tooth. He was a character, right? And the whole time he was just the drunken stupid. We're trying to get away from him at the end of it, basically. Like, he leaves the fuck alone. And I'm like, well, if he's gonna be here, I ask him a question about like, what do you think about the Ukrainian language? I see you're speaking Russian, and he gets super serious out of nowhere. It was like as if the alcohol just left his body for a split moment from the heavens. And he said, I speak Russian here. I speak Ukrainian here. And he pointed to his heart. And what he was trying to get at with me was this idea that, like, I was never taught growing up to speak my mother tongue. I was never taught these things growing up because that was disencouraged or was seen as bad. And I think a lot of the cultural nuances of the Donbass and of Eastern Ukraine are kind of lost, because when we talk about even you can talk about like the far right in Ukraine, right? The most anti-Russian types, most of them speak Russian. Like Azov is largely a Russian-speaking organization, the Azov Battalion, which is like, if there's like an organization you could say is not favorable towards the Russian government, it is them. And so I think a lot of people like will point to the Donbass and the fact that so many people speak Russian, and they'll not understand that just because you speak that language does not mean you want to be part of that country's government. I mean, the American Revolution is another example of this, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a good example, right? That right there is probably the best one to bring up, right? I like that. That's pretty good. Oh man, I am. Oh wow, we've been going for a while here.
Yeah, I've been going for a
while. I
while.
like this. We're going. But this was a great conversation. Honestly, I really we hit so many topics here.
We did hit a lot of topics. That is true. Hey, I gotta start pushing my content more. So do you want to hear an interesting war story? I got to start pushing these more.
Please, let's hear
because I have so many and I never know how to bring them up in conversations.
So you're not in Ukraine right now, correct?
No, but I'm going back in January, February. I want to do more frontline filming. I want to do like a week-long in bed with soldiers, like fighting.
Well, stay safe, man. I know you said you had some close calls.
I mean, yeah, I've had a few close calls. I got shelled while I was in Mykolaiv. I've got like chased by drones and shit. But it's I'm still alive, so it is what it is. I mean, the thing is, I believe very fundamentally that and this is a very it feels almost virtue signaling in a way. I believe that if you believe in something, you need to believe in it fully. Did you see the recent like news in Qatar about like, we're gonna wear this armband to stand with queer people? Oh, you're gonna be fined. What armband? I'm changing armbands actually to this new version that's a little more watered down. We don't like that one either. Okay, well actually this one just says racism bad. Can I wear the racism bad one? They just kept watering it down because none of these people actually wanted to like take a stand for like something they believed in. I believe fundamentally you need to commit yourself like entirely for something, like entirely if you believe in something really. That I must contribute myself, even if it like puts your own life at risk to some degree. I think it's a good thing actually for a human being to believe in something so truly and so ultimately that they're willing to put their life on the line for it. And I believe Ukraine is definitely one of those things for me, at least.
Right. There's a question here that from someone who seems to not be a fan of, your and sort of my position on this too, I guess. Matt asked Dylan what will happen to the pro-Russian people of Donbass who voted in the referendum. Do we accept them getting exterminated by Nazi volunteer militants? Well, for one, That referendum is bullshit.
Yeah.
Second of all, listen, I've said it before, just in this conversation, they're without a doubt bad actors in Ukraine. And certainly the United States should take a role when ever this does end, if Ukraine hopefully does maintain its country's survival, the U.S. needs to then step in and say there needs to be something done about these bad actors, these neo-Nazi contingents in the Ukraine. And yeah, that should be taken care of. There's no doubt about it. I don't know anyone who denies that there's an issue with some, especially it seems almost maybe even mostly in that region with there's neo-Nazi contingents there without a doubt. I mean, there's also neo-Nazis in Russia.
I think I've met, while I was there, I met a lot of soldiers. I think I met one that I know for sure is a Nazi, and one that I was like kind of had suspicions of. But they're not everywhere. The closest you can get to like seeing them everywhere is right sector, which definitely has Nazis in it. I saw their office while I was in Lviv, and they were playing like some weird far right music, and I think that was like an example of it. And there's usually Azov shit everywhere, but people just look at Azov. They don't like Azov because of their politics, because the political party of Azov, like, it's a failure. They like Azov because they fought to the death in Mariupol and they sacrificed everything. It's a very different reason as to why they liked it. And so I think that difference should be distinct when we talk about Azov. Is that Ukrainian people don't like Azov because some of their members are very far right. Not all of them, I will mind you, but some of them definitely are, and it is a legitimate problem. They like them because of what happened in Mariupol. And I think that is something that does need to be clarified. That it's like, I think a lot of people think that the Nazi problem in Ukraine is like one in every four like Ukrainians deny the Holocaust or something. But we're talking about a determined but small group of people here, where we are talking about a very small percentage of the Ukrainian military as a total whole. And this isn't particularly that strange when it comes to independence struggles. If you look at, for example, the opposition to the Japanese invasion of China, you had hardcore far-right nationalists fighting it, and literally Mao Zedong. And they even like made peace deals in order to stop fighting each other in order to fight the Japanese invasion. This happens in a lot of independence struggles where people of all different political stripes, even the very, very bad ones, will basically say, look, we all agree in one ultimate enemy, and that's the invasion force. That's the like imperialists or whatever. And so this isn't even that historically insane as a concept that this is happening. But I will say, like, yeah, there are, like, we can't deny that the Nazis exist, but this premise that this person laid out, this idea of like, oh, they're going to execute all the pro-Russian people. I think I have one story that I can like tie this into. I had gone to the Donbass. We were on the way to Kramatorsk, and we had to stop because it got too late and our route out was being shelled. So we had to stop because if we went, we would have gotten shelled. And by the way, IRI, thank you so much for the raid. While we were there, we met this medic. This medic is fucking insane. He doesn't use a gun. He just uses a combat shield. And so he'll run into battles, grab people who are injured, and drag them away because he's religiously against it. He's religiously against the use of firearms. And this guy was a god of the gab. Okay, it wasn't Michael Tracy, but he had the god of the gab, and he went on and on all night telling stories, which I loved as a reporter. It made my job easy, right? And I haven't released any of this footage yet. But later, because I was in the Donbass, and the Donbass, according to international press, is historically very pro-Russian, I asked him, like, what is the amount of pro-Russian support in this community? And he tells me, like, I don't, in this area, like, maybe 1 in 10, like I would say. Probably maybe 1 in 10, which is still, like, tremendously low. And I'm like, oh, okay. What do you think will happen to them after the war? And he said, like, collaborators will be dealt with. And he was specifically talking about like people who like work with the Ukrainian military. And so I do think that there's a risk that like people get their hands on the person who gave the Russian government, say, like a kill list or a list of their neighbor or snitched on people, and they do something fucking horrific to that person, there's a risk that that happens, just like there was a risk that, like, you know what American soldiers did during the liberation of like certain concentration camps, what they did to like prison guards and they like, shot them, or how the French police or like French resistance fighters, when they caught collaborators, they killed them. That is something I am worried about, as I would be worried about any independent struggle, and that should be monitored. But I highly doubt that they're going to go door to door shooting people just for having tacitly voted in an election or forced to vote in an election. I find that very suspicious. I think my main concern would be, what do they do when they catch the people who help the Russians round people up? Because that's when it really is a test of human will to like hold back and allow institutions to pick up these people and process them so they can have proper punishment. That is a real test of human will.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's see. Is there any other questions there? Left is Best says, at least Matt Binder decades from now can proudly say he was on the side of neo-Nazis. Okay. All right. I mean, you want to act that way, feel free to act that way.
Banderites. We're Banderites. We're a left is best Banderites, of course.
I mean, I couldn't make it any more clear that the Ukrainian, the neo-Nazis on the Ukrainian side, let them die. Let them die. And in fact, if the ones that don't, something should be done about them. When the war is over, they need to be at the very least expelled from any sort of official capacity.
The military.
Yes. I mean, but literally, that's what military is in literally every country. Though there are neo-Nazis in every single military, in every single nation across the globe. That's the truth.
It is true. I mean, there was actually neo-Nazi plots from within the military. I think it was foiled in 2018, 2019, where a neo-Nazi wanted to give information to the Taliban so they could kill American soldiers under the idea that it could destabilize the United States if there was like enough of a tragedy or something. Like there are even neo-Nazis going within the American military and multiple militaries around the world under the idea of that they're going to get training and they're going to use this training to do horrific things. But that does not mean that if China invaded the United States tomorrow, we would say, well, we should give up California because of this guy from 2019. Or, well, did you know that when America was literally like all hands on deck, that 0.5% of the military is made up of the far right? Honestly, I would say for a war of this, which is a war of survival, I have generally been pleased at the lack of far right attitudes I've met and encountered while in Ukraine. It's there, I've seen it, but it's not as present as the media makes it out to be, and I think it's just because it gets so much attention. It feels. Well, remember when Matt Walsh was on Joe Rogan's podcast? He said 1 million children have gotten like mastectomies, and then they Googled it and it was 1,000. That's what it feels like when it's with Azov, because the media talks about it so much. People would think there's like 1 million neo-Nazis in Ukraine.
Right. I mean, this has been my take, and I think I might have told you this last time we spoke, and you could tell me. Your how accurate you think this could possibly be. But the Azov battalion, the main neo-Nazi contingent of fighters in Ukraine, have been active for those 8 years we previously discussed, literally fighting in the Donbass region against Russia. And so, being that is the region that has seen the most fighting, and in turn, even during this time around, this year when Russia invaded Ukraine, that has also been the region that has been the most war-torn, being that they are there and have been fighting, and that is their home, and then that's where the war is, and so that's where you get all these journalists and photographers going there to take all these pictures and stuff and report on what's going on there. There is an outsized presence of them in this specific area compared to the rest of Ukraine.
I would say I definitely saw more like far right, I would say, elements when I was closer to the front line, and when I would say out east. But it's still, again, it's still small overall. I think a lot of it's also confirmation bias. Like, nobody's going to remember the million different, like, eagles or, like, wolves to represent this and this and this army division. Everybody's going to be like, I know that symbol. I've seen that in the media. And so I think a lot of it's also confirmation bias. But I do think that some of it could be because, like, a lot of these organizations are regional. And Azov, particularly, I think, has gotten so much attention because Azov's fought for 8 years. So a lot of them have 8 years of combat experience, right? They were there since the start. And so a lot of people view Azov as kind of like this elite fighting group. And if you ask a Ukrainian, this is how they're going to talk about it. That, oh, Azov is the elite fighting group that's been fighting for 8 years and put it all on the line in Mariupol. Very little bit when people talk about Azov has to do with politics. There is the founder of Azov, who is a far-right, like, neo-Nazi type, did split off to create his own political party. It's just been a failure. And so that's why I find it hard to believe that, like, general feelings about Azov or Azov's existence is going to translate into, like, Ukraine becoming a Nazi state when there seems to be, like, no general interest in that whatsoever. And there's, like, no far-right policies being introduced. The far-right parties are largely failures. I think Svoboda has 1 seat out of 450 in the Rada. I think it's people make it a more outsized issue than it is. Not to mention, can I also say, the Russian government has neo-Nazis fighting on their side. Rusich, which is a private military company, is a neo-Nazi organization. The Wagner Group was founded by a neo-Nazi who has SS and neo-Nazi tattoos all over his chest. Literally the swastika, German eagle, everything. And he's the founder of the Wagner Group, which hasn't only fought in Ukraine, but Syria, throughout Africa, all these other locations as well, and have been accused of things like murdering people with sledgehammers as a form of punishment, which they just did in Ukraine. And their fighters, like, published blogs about, like, the Kherson occupation when they were still there, and they were talking about how these dirty, and they would, like, start using slurs for Ukrainians. They spit in our direction. They hate us. Every single time we give them their money in rubles or pensions in rubles, they exchange it for Ukrainian hryvnias. They won't accept payments in rubles. They'll only accept payments in the Ukrainian currency. I hate these motherfuckers. We need to ban the Ukrainian language here. We need to, like, they have their own neo-Nazis. And so my question to everyone is, so is the plan to use neo-Nazis to denazify neo-Nazis? So Nazis are going to go into Ukraine to get rid of the Nazis, to get rid of the Nazism. Is that the plan? So, I mean, this is like having Joseph Goebbels, like, fight Hermann Goering to, like, save the Jews. Like, what's that? That doesn't work. They both hate the Jews. There's not gonna be there's no solution here where the Nazis, like, go away, because these people would be the ones who would maintain an occupation force as they have, and they have committed horrific war crimes as well. So it's just like, I don't think this war has anything to do with Nazism whatsoever, because if it did, why is it that the Russians are using Nazis to conduct military operations?
Oh, of course there's nothing. Anyone who thinks that what Putin said early on about denazification or whatever is bullshit. Couldn't have been any more bullshit. I mean, I don't honestly, I don't even know who believes that's what Russia is doing besides, like, simps for Putin, honestly. I don't get that at all. You want to, like, be obsessed with, like, the Joe Biden or Democratic support of Ukraine and the money spent. I mean, I disagree, but I get it. I get that, at least. You want to, talk about, that there are Nazis in Ukraine. I mean, you can totally do that. But if you're not also talking about the Nazis on the other side in Russia, then you're a bullshit artist too. So if
I would just say, like, if you were to look at the ideological makeup of Ukrainian soldiers, I've met communists, I've met anarchists, I've met run-of-the-mill liberals, I've met conservatives, and I have met Nazis. Very few Nazis, but I have met them, and very few communists as well, because it's Ukraine, and they don't view communism very well. But the thing is, it's the only thing that's consistent amongst the people who are defending Ukraine is that they're Ukrainian. Because it's a uniting national thing. No matter who you are politically in Ukraine, there is a desire to get rid of the occupier, to get rid of the imperialist who's coming over to impose their own rules, their own regulations, and has denied the existence of your people. If you were to basically tell a country to go into survival mode, and a people, which is what's going on, a people to go into survival mode, they're going to throw everything they can at you. They're going to take anarchist battalion, sure, why not? You're Stalinist? Oh, you're Pol Pot from the grave? Sure, you go over there. Neo-Nazi, you go over there. They're going to throw everything at the wall. And that includes the Azov battalion. I mean, that's the thing is, the Azov battalion was created in 2014, when Ukraine was on the ropes after the Russian invasion of Crimea and what was going on in the Donbass, it was created in a time when Ukraine was the most desperate, which is an indicator, again, I don't think of political support for Nazism, but out of a desperation to survive as a nation state.
Yeah. I mean, you're spitting facts here. I think, like, listen, this is my best case scenario. The Nazis on both sides take each other out, and the Nazis on the Ukraine side, in going out, help end the war, and Russia leaves. Ukraine maintains its sovereignty, and all the Nazis are lying unconscious and dead on the battlefield. I mean, I don't care about the Nazis other than I don't want them there or anywhere. I want them to go away in the most brutal, horrible way possible. So, I mean, the idea that, like, saying that Ukraine has a right to exist somehow means you are defending neo-Nazis, just the most bullshit argument. It means you don't want to even have a conversation about this very serious thing. Even if you look beyond any sort of politics, any sort of, even if you look beyond, like, what you were just saying, Dylan, about the different political ideologies that you've come across there, I'm thinking about the innocent children and the mothers and the fathers who are completely not involved in any aspect here, just going about their life, their everyday life, and they are in a war. They are stuck in an, it's just how that's not the focus for any of these people is beyond me. And the only way those people will be safe, and I'm talking about in Russia too, the people who are being sent to their deaths untrained for a war they don't even want to fight. The only way good, innocent people will be okay at the end of this is for Russia to leave. And giving up on Ukraine will not in any way push Russia to leave. Only the opposite will happen. More innocent people will die.
I feel like I've seen a lot of this, and I saw it too with Qatar as well recently. It almost feels like a weird form of nationalism, but people are trying to, like, make it sound kind of like a little bit wokish in a way. I don't know how to describe it. In Qatar, it was kind of like with the people are criticizing Qatar for being homophobic. Someone says, how dare you criticize their culture, right? There's very hardcore, like, culturally relativistic, like, this isn't your business. This isn't the type of thing you should get involved. This isn't an issue that concerns you. And I have seen from, like, Brianna Joy Gray and, some other commentators, this kind of, like, left-wing pitch of, like, this isn't our business. This is our money. We need to spend it here on, the American homeless, crippled, black trans vets that are whatever the issue is in the United States. So we shouldn't be spending this overseas and enriching the military industrial complex. And what I don't understand is how all of a sudden people who are willing to, like, jump on a Medicare for all and, like, all these gigantic spending plans, all of a sudden when it comes to stopping children being kidnapped from their homes and dragged away and deported and mass graves being filled, all of a sudden the pockets dry up in the richest nation on the planet. I find it bizarre. Like, where did this kind of, like, nationalist angle of it come from? I don't understand. Like, these are people that I would have expected to be someone, like, more international in their worldview. We live in a 21st century. We live in a global world, right? I would really hate it if the end of human development was when we see nations get invaded or genocides happen, we just say, tough shit, we got our own problems. That would really suck if that was the end of human development.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so bizarre to me how this. It's really weird to me. The sides that come out on the when the Ukraine, Russia, Russia's invasion of Ukraine comes up again. If you are someone who is critical of certain aspects, I probably agree with you in those aspects. If you're someone who literally thinks Ukraine is just full of neo-Nazis and is rooting for Russia or something, unbelievable. And if you're someone who, takes it steps in terms of, like, the idea that, like, just leaving Ukraine will solve it is also just I don't know. It's just very I don't get it. I guess you're just not if you're just a non uh, interventionist, that doesn't even make sense because we're it's like listen, honestly when this first started, this is what I was my deduction of this, and I still believe it. People are so used to American intervention being meaning that we're the bad guys, and that's accurate.
Yeah.
That they can't even believe that in this one case we're actually on the right side.
The thing that I think that gets people is intent. And this is the argument I hear all the time is like, well, even if we somehow are on the right side, why are we really there? We're not there to help people. We're there for Ukrainian resources or because we don't like Russia or any of these other number of reasons. But I always try to explain to people the reasons nation states get involved in war are extremely complex. And part of the reason I think there's so much aid going over to Ukraine is because the moral argument is so strong. And it's popular. It is popular to send aid to Ukraine, which is a wild thing to say. If you were to say after the invasion of Afghanistan that in 1 year, the majority of American public would be asking for military aid to be sent overseas, it would call you insane. But because of how strong the moral argument, even after the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the American public think it's our duty to be involved in this way. And so I do think that intent from the American public does have a significant impact. But I'm sure the military-industrial complex, them making money and stuff like that also has some role to play. But I would never say we shouldn't do the thing that is the correct thing, the morally correct thing to do, that would save the most lives and have the best impact on the world because people I don't like would benefit. As in the military-industrial complex, they would make money. Since the beginning of man, as long as man could sharpen rock, okay, man has been selling sharpened rock to beat other man to death. Weapons have always been sold for profit. So when calculating this type of like foreign policy dilemma, I don't really think like the profits of the military-industrial complex or the intentions of one particular senator or a group of particular senator should be like a major priority in determining whether or not we should support it for moral reasons if there's a good reason to do it.
Yeah. I guess that's the most that's all I have to say at this point about that topic. Honestly, it's because it's funny because I see some people in the chat who are anti-majority report, bringing up the neo-libs of the majority report coming out here. I'm actually the only one. Like this is actually where the majority report gets into one of the few areas where the majority report audience disagrees with like the majority report crew. Like I am the only one in the majority report who actually has these views on the war in Ukraine. I went at it a little bit in just friendly disagreement, but we went back and forth a little bit with me, Matt Leck, Emma, Brandon, and I think the next day Sam was updated because there was a whole thing with the audience disagreeing with Matt and Emma. I mean, I'm the voice here on the majority report that feels this way. I'm not saying they are as spouting the same stuff others are, but they have criticized this way more than I have. I mean, I think honestly, again, maybe it's because of my background and my long history covering white supremacist groups and neo-Nazis and far-right figures. I see what's going on here, and I get what's going on here, and it's not what people are trying to make it as. I mean, I would like to think that for anyone who knows me and how I've been literally on this beat of covering these, these far right movements and reactionary movements for over like a decade now, know that if there's someone who knows about neo-Nazis and doesn't side with them, I'm one of those people.
I think that's something that interesting way to look at it also is when you look at the American far right, including like American white supremacists, who do they support in this war? Who's what the vast majority of them support? If you tune into Nick Fuentes' stream, he's going to tell you how Russia is conducting a war for Christianity in Ukraine against the trans, against the gays and the homos and the liberalism. And if you listen to like certain Chechen commander, and there's video of this online, I'm not fibbing, where they're literally telling soldiers before they send them off to go die that, hello, we need to stop our kids from being corrupted by the homosexuality and the trans. And so we're going there to fight the shaitan, which means devil in Ukraine. Like, people are going to go and die in a war with the last words they ever hearing is, hope I don't make my kid, we got to stop my kid from being gay. We got to go fight and die for that. And there's a reason why the American far right seems to have so much sympathy for Vladimir Putin, not only due to his own views of sexual minorities, but also due to his views on generally supporting the international far right, which is something that he likes. He wants the international far right because not only is it because he agrees with them ideologically, but also it creates instability. The Foundation for Geopolitics is a book that's I don't give Dugin too much credit for being a major influence, but Alexander Dugin did write for the Foundation of Geopolitics, which is taught in Russian military academies. And in this book, it says explicitly, and again, this is taught in Russian military academies, that a goal should be to cause racial unrest in the United States under the guise of unseating it from its position of power. Because if there's a race war or if there's race riots in the United States, that could allow Russia to fill up power vacuums that America would need to, let go of, and the power vacuum America would leave as it turns inward. And so I think when we talk about like the threat of Nazism and the threat of the far right, we ultimately like hyper focus on Ukraine, but let's look at the international far right. How do they view the conflict? Why are there far right supporters and volunteers on the Russian side as well? Why are there so many American far right commentators that seem to have sympathetic views of Vladimir Putin or even outright support him? And like Tucker Carlson, who said on his show explicitly that he is a supporter of Vladimir Putin.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I don't know. Again, if there's maybe I'm not explaining myself well, but that wasn't an attack on the Majority Report. That was me actually defending them
Matt,
from the
now
people.
Now that you're leaving the Majority Report, have you ever thought of getting employed with Dylan Burns TV?
That was me defending them from the people attacking them for being like neo-libs on this topic. They're actually, if you want to call it, to the left of me on this. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I don't think that's the way to put it, honestly.
I despise the idea that the more involved in international affairs you have America, the less left-wing you are somehow.
I mean, I look at
acknowledging the existence of the global world is not left-wing. It feels silly.
I look at it this way, like the last good war, and good war as in good we got involved because it was a worthwhile thing, was World War II. Should we have sat idly by while the Nazis, where Adolf Hitler's Nazis, exterminated the Jewish people, the Romani people, the LGBT community over there? Should we have sat idly by while these minority groups were decimated? No, we can't always. Should we be the world police? No, not that either. But there are times in history where something needs to be done because something is so brutally wrong that unfortunately outside actors have to get involved. And I hate to say it, that's the U.S. in a lot of cases is one of those countries that need to get involved. And again, very few. I'm literally going back to World War II as the last time it was necessary. Every other war after that has been bullshit. We were the bad guys. We're not in Ukraine. I wouldn't advocate for any U.S. soldiers to go into Ukraine. I think what we're doing now is the most we should do in terms of aiding them, in terms of supplying them with what they need to make sure their country doesn't disappear tomorrow.
I would even say that you can make an argument that supporting a country in a liberation struggle is a truly internationalist kind of left-wing. I think you can make the argument easily that's a left-wing position, supporting a people's liberation against an authoritarian government invading its lands with the explicit goal of erasing the Ukrainian identity. I think you can easily make the argument for it. I think some people just hear like guns and bombs being sent anywhere, and they immediately mean, okay, so that's the right-wing thing. You can fight for a left-wing or a good cause and not be a right-winger in fighting for a cause if the cause is righteous, and a liberation struggle is always righteous.
Right. I mean, hell, we should have been doing the same thing for like the Kurds. And
absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean,
and Myanmar is another example of something.
And
we
you
should
know
be
what?
doing.
With these same detractors be on the left, would they be saying the same thing if we were doing that in a country like this? Like it's again, I think this conversation is good to have, and I also think that the broad left needs to realize that just because we disagree on certain things doesn't mean we are enemies or something. I mean, the right has disagreements on a lot of things, but they all come together at the end of the day to extract as much, to export as much pain on minority groups as possible. So, I mean, we can disagree on this and have quibbles about this and still not hate each other. I mean... although they're obviously the who Michael Brooks had called the dumb lefties, I think they're not the same. The ones who are actively pro-Russia. I mean, if you're just an anti-interventionalist, and I think we can come to agreements on some areas. But if you were like, the Jimmy Dore left, which I don't even think you would call.
I gotta
the left.
ask you: did you see the Sitch and Adam interview with Jimmy Dore? The interview debate. Did you see the clip? I posted a clip of it on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it from there or saw it from somewhere else. But Jimmy Dore immediately, when asked to substantiate any proof whatsoever that the CIA conducted a coup in Ukraine in 2014, when he's talking about the Euromaidan, when asked to provide any evidence, he immediately just says, I don't want to debate that, and he just leaves.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and Sitch and what's his Sitch and
Adam.
Sitch and Adam. I was on their show once with Lance from the Surfs. Sitch and Adam, they wouldn't consider themselves to be right wing, but they're definitely right wing. I mean, they're not maybe like far right, but they are right wing. Like even from a right wing perspective, just asking Jimmy Dore, for just to back up his claim, and Jimmy Dore didn't interact with people who would have been probably sympathetic with whatever he gave them. He
doesn't like being fact checked.
He just didn't have anything to give them at all. He could have just, even if he had the smallest of background, because listen, I can guarantee that there are people who believe that, and like I'm sure if you ask like friggin' what's his face from the Gray Zone. I'm sure he'll give you a
Aaron Mate or something.
Yeah, Aaron Mate.
Ben
I'm sure.
Norton,
No, Ben Norton's actually not. I wouldn't put Ben Norton in the same category. He left the Gray Zone because he didn't like where they were going.
Really?
Yes, he did.
What specific thing did he not like that they were going in the direction of?
The COVID stuff that what's his face was getting involved in. That was when he had enough.
It's just really hard after Syria. Gray Zone contributed to so much misinformation about the Syrian civil war.
I listen, I will say like absolutely, and you could definitely like criticize him for that, but I'm familiar with all their work, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, Ben Norton. Ben Norton, while there was some overlap, he's definitely not in the same grouping.
Okay.
You could definitely criticize his positions where he lined up, but definitely not the same. But like even Aaron Mate would have a list of things. Again, you could probably poke holes in them and argue with him about it, but he would have had something. He would have been expecting it, I'm sure. The fact that Jimmy Dore could not even give anything, I don't even think it's just that he doesn't want to argue about it. I think he's just so not even misinformed. He's just so uneducated. Like he does the bare minimum. He doesn't know anything about what he even talks about on his show. Like he just regurgitates what he thinks his audience wants to hear. He realizes he's getting a larger audience by saying certain things, and so he continues to do that. He has no background in any of this stuff. Nothing is his specialty. I've never heard him on any topic where it was like, oh, this is something Jimmy Dore is like, this is his thing, this is his beat. Like, listen, there are areas I know shit about, and I have guests on to talk to them about, and I sit there and I learn. But I also know my bread and butter. I know the areas where I am an expert on. I can talk with you day and night, 24/7, nonstop about these areas, and I'm good to go. I can't think of one thing where I look at Jimmy Dore and I can say, that's the guy who knows a lot about insert blank. There is nothing.
I got a really good Jimmy Dore story to just talk about how uneducated he is. Now, Jimmy Dore made a lot of claims about Syria, a lot of claims when it came to gas attacks and documents from organizations. He went really far down in there, right? Now, if you're gonna start making allegations that war crimes that occurred didn't happen, right? I would assume you would do a proper amount of research about the war that you're making this accusation about. Like if you were gonna doubt anything that happened in, say, any war, if you were gonna be a revisionist on any conflict and say this historical event that people claim happened is fake, you should probably be pretty studied up on that conflict. I think you would agree with me, correct, Matt? Right? You should be.
Yeah.
No, the basic amount. So after he'd already published like 25 videos on Syria, he does a video. I think it was talking about the war, and in this video he's like, "Yo, did you know there's these Kurdish fighters in like northeastern Syria that are like fighting ISIS? Have you heard about the YPG? I didn't know about these people. We have stuff over there. What do you mean we have stuff over there?" He had no clue. He had no clue about the YPG, the YPJ, or some of the basic fundamental like people involved in organizations and groups involved in the war. Yet he was making accusations about war crimes he didn't think occurred and about schemes that happened that he's accusing of these conspiracies for taking place, but he doesn't know the basic facts of it. This would like me being denying Pearl Harbor happened, and then I ask who's Japan. It doesn't make any sense that he would not know this if he did his studying on the issue, which is why I feel like he almost like just has somebody else get him his resources, like what happened with the staffer that one time who edited that article that he ended up using in one of his news segments. I think maybe it's because staffers get him everything he does, or he just like scrolls on Twitter, finds whatever, and then just regurgitates whatever he has on Twitter. But he doesn't do really any research into foreign policy whatsoever.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He doesn't know anything about anything. Again, I can't think of any topic that Jimmy Dore is an expert on. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Yeah, I don't know. Someone just said he's lazy. He says take it easy. Yeah, I think that's part of it. But you also think that over the years you would at least develop some sort of knowledge, even just from the lazy little bit you do because you're too lazy, just from talking about it on your show. Like what did a Sitch and Adam ask him for again? Run it by me again. Hello?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah. What did Sitch and Adam ask him for again?
Sitch and Adam asked him for any evidence that the coup in Ukraine was done by the CIA.
So what my point here with using that is he is definitely, without a doubt, talked about that on his show. I'm not even saying he brought it up. I'm not even saying he prepared the segment and brought it up. I'm saying he had a guest on to do all the work, but he at least was sitting there ostensibly listening to what his guest was saying. He couldn't just regurgitate what he previously heard someone else say on his show. My guess is he's not even paying attention. He's not even paying attention to what they're saying. He just sits there, lets them sputter, and then he knows, he sees number go up, money go up, revenue go up, and he goes, oh, more of that.
I think he kind of like dips his toe in topics a bit to see how his audience reacts to it, to see how much it gets, and then he'll see like, oh, it gets a hook. Like I think that's what happened with COVID with him, because he was publishing stories about COVID every day about any number of topics about COVID, and it was never like, hey, they did a test and it looks like this vaccine actually works. You know, I think it was never anything like that. It was always like, here's how the doctors are lying to you. Here's how they're trying to, they're scheming. They're going against you. Untested. It was always something along the lines of that. It was never would just catch people's eye and also serve the general narrative he's wanting to create. You don't need to have all the facts in order. You just need to general narrative to craft, something to kind of shovel on what you already believe. And I think that that's what he generally does with topics, that he just kind of grabs whatever he can find on Twitter, throws it up, or just has other people say what he'll have people on, and they'll just say what he believes for him. And then he'll just repeat their talking points afterwards. But if you get anywhere deeper than the most basic of surface level conversations about a foreign policy issue, he collapses. I think one of the greatest examples of this would be Sam Cedars' debate with Jimmy Dore way back in the day over the Supreme Court, and the fact that if Donald Trump wins, 3 Supreme Court nominations could come in, and he said it is more likely for a moon to go into Lake Michigan than for Republicans to get 3 Supreme Court nominations. And then Republicans proceed to get 3 Supreme Court nominations, and I've been watching the moon ever since.
I cannot believe that clip hasn't been like, I got to do it. So, or someone do that for me. Someone listening. How that clip isn't literally filling up Jimmy Dore's Twitter replies every time he tweets something out is beyond me. If I projected something that, in his estimation, so over the top ridiculous, and then it came true immediately after,
to the T, the exact number.
The exact number. Yes, the exact number. I mean, it just goes to show there's no justice in this world. Career should be over after saying something like that and then it happening. It should be done. I make projections all the time about things that happen, and guess what? I usually make those projections on things I'm knowledgeable about, and I'm right or get very close to being exactly right. And things that I don't know anything about, I don't make projections because it'd be ridiculous to do that, because when I get it wrong, it'll be egg in my face. The fact that he went ahead and did that and has not suffered any consequences, in fact, just got more popular, is a real, very sad that that's the world we live in. But also B, like, we're all dropping the ball, but not making sure that clip is all over his feed every time he says something.
Absolutely, but there's like a million. The thing that I hate the most is about like people who engage in a lot of conspiracy, because I'm a very anti-conspiratorial person. Conspiracies exist, but they're very rare and few and far in between, and there's not nearly as many that are as alleged, right? There's a conspiracy about everything these days. And the things that I really don't like about conspiratorial people, whether it be Alex Jones, whether it be Jimmy Dore, whether it be any of these conspiratorial types, is they'll get things wrong constantly. And I mean constantly. Alex Jones said that actually this year, China was going to invade Taiwan. So by the end of this year, I'm waiting. It hasn't happened. And like these types of predictions like happen again and again and again and again and again. And they keep getting it wrong, but there's never any repercussions. There's never any like, we're going to take a step back and reflect, and we're going to maybe change, or like loss of viewership. That doesn't happen. And yet I see so many of these conspiratorial people, anytime CNN gets something wrong and then they immediately fire the guy or like suspend the guy, they'll go crazy. Like, look at the line mainstream media that AP did this, CNN did this, and they'll go crazy. They'll do like a 20-minute news segment. But then if they get something wrong, 99% of the time, they never even address it. They never even go back to reflect upon the fact that they got that information wrong. Like, never.
Yeah, of course they don't. They'll never do that, because then they would be showing their ass, really. I mean, for me personally, like, I take great care in if I get something wrong, in terms of like, I report something, more information comes out and facts change. I owe it to my audience to let them know, oh, the information has changed. I'm issuing a correction. I mean, I do it regularly when it's necessary. I'm very careful so that doesn't happen too much. I wait for things to come out and for us to know everything. But the few times where it's happened, right away, that's the important part of doing this job. I mean, maybe the problem is I take my job very seriously, and I do feel like, I have a small audience compared to these other people we're talking about, but I think I owe it to them to make sure they always are well informed. What an asshole I am. What a dumbass I am for thinking that's what the people want, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I think one of the main problems with the left right now, I think in politics generally, is how much people engage in conspiracy. I feel like everybody has decided to like imbue themselves as a medical expert and like an expert in construction when it comes to 9/11, an expert in medical things when it comes to vaccine. I think one of the worst things in politics today is just we almost live in like a post-truth society. You can just choose your own truth, and it can be as wild and as crazy as you want. So if you want to live in a Tom Clancy novel because your life's boring as fuck, you can do that. And that's what Alex Jones viewers do every week, and that's what Jimmy Dore viewers do every week. And so I really feel like that's a poison. It's just this. You need to give whoever gives the best narrative gets the most viewership. It doesn't really matter if the narrative's correct or not.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's spot on.
We've been going for 2.5 hours.
Dylan, yeah, wow, I can't believe it. I honestly feel like we could go for 2.5 more. The only problem is I feel like if I don't get sleep, and I still have to do a quick post show because I always like to I talk up that people can call in and talk to me at any time. So even when I go long, if I don't at least take 1 or 2 calls, I'm not living up to the expectation. Okay. Does Jimmy Dore take phone calls even? Does he open it up for his own fans to even interact with him?
No, he just also, I need to send you something. Aaron Mate, in a call, I forgot. I got to remind people. This is getting no attention, so I got to remind people of this. Aaron Mate doesn't do a lot of debates. Like, I remember, like, the Surfs tried to facilitate a debate between me and him.
I had a debate with him.
Did you? What did you debate him on?
This was back in 2016 or no, 2018, I think, on the Russia, the Russia investigation into Trump, and it was really early into it, so that much stuff wasn't out, and he was so focused on like the meetings, and I was agreeing with him on some parts where like I did think at that point. There was so much ridiculousness made up about Robert Mueller from like the resistance libs and all of, like the lionizing people and how the connection was going to be showing Trump at the highest level. I never thought there was going to be that. And I was saying I agree with you in some points here on this, but then he just seemed to think that like what Russia did have involvement in was pointless, didn't mean anything, and I was like, dude. Completely wrong. Like, what are you talking about? Like, even on like the small bore stuff, like the social media foreign influence or whatever, you could like joke about like how ineffective it was, but they certainly did what they did. I mean, you can't deny that there was an involvement here.
Absolutely. I mean, they went through they got indictments. Like, it wasn't like there was nothing that happened. Like, if nobody ever got indicted, it was another thing. It would be like, okay, whatever. But those happened, right? Like, it's not. Fuck. I guess like a lot of people were able to just point out like, well, Rachel Maddow said this once, and that's what Americans believe. Therefore, nothing happened. Don't worry about it. When it's like, well, actually, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like, there seemed to be some illegal activity that was going on, but it's not nearly as high level as people thought it was or was being speculated. It's still bad no matter how much occurred. But I think it's very difficult for people to accept that nuance. It's either Trump is literally Putin's direct puppet, or Trump is like an amazing hero who would never accept any amount of offers of corruption from anyone. Like, it has to be one of these two things. It can't be somewhere in the middle about what his campaign staff did, what people like Michael Flynn did. It can't be anything else. Fuck. I feel like, honestly, the lack of nuance in politics, I think, is one of the most poisonous things.
Hey, Dylan, why don't we do another hour on the
lack of nuance in politics?
I was gonna say the Mueller investigation.
Oh no, I can't. No, it's not.
Well, we could do the hour on the Mueller investigation, then we could do an hour on nuance in politics. Maybe we'll segue into a brand new segment that comes up after we discuss those. Yeah,
we'll do a post show about the dynamics of like genderqueer theory. I think we need to do a little bit of that. I think there hasn't been enough genderqueer theory on the Matt Binder stream.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Oh boy. All right. Dylan Burns, we got to do this more. Actually, I think this was great. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come on again any time of the week, man.
Sounds great. And let's being that you're streaming and I'm streaming, let's let each other's audience know where they could find us. Dylan viewers, you can check me out at YouTube at youtube.com/MattBinder, and right where you are now on Twitch at twitch.tv/MattBinder, and of course on Twitter at MattBinder. You get where this is going in terms of where you can find me or how you could find me.
You can find me in the woods of Ukraine, covered in mud, no reflective metals on me, crawling through the dirt and blood. What was it Norm Macdonald said in the 9/11 bit? Blood and bones on the streets during 9/11. You can find me at Dylan Burns TV on YouTube. I've released a lot more on the ground YouTube Ukraine content if people want to go check that out. I'm going to release more in the future, including my complete explanation as to why I think the red wave didn't come, and a bunch of other footage, including delivering Elon Musk's Starlink to the front line to Ukrainian forces, which
Oh,
which I was able to film. I subsidized Elon Musk. I paid for the gasoline. I paid $500 for gas for it. So I
jeez.
should get at least like 10% stock in Twitter. Um,
Well, there's
uh,
no Twitter stock.
oh yeah, true. Any number of Ukraine misadventures and journalism is on my main channel. If you want to see my more daily commentary, there's also Dylan Burns Live, which is another YouTube channel I'm pushing really hard right now. And if you want to support me as I go back to Ukraine, I definitely need money to do that. You can support me at Dylan Burns TV on Patreon. I would greatly appreciate any money you throw my way so I can continue doing this, because it's a lot easier to just bitch about cartoons and how many gays are in it than it is to go to like do on the ground journalism. It's a lot more high effort and a lot less reward, but I need to do it. So any money I'd appreciate.
All right. There you go, everybody. And we will be doing this again in the near future. Dylan, this was absolutely wonderful. Have a great night. Hope to talk to you real soon.
Thank you very much. I will send a foreign legion recruiter to knock on your door, grab you, black bag you, and I'll have you on the front line in a week.
Oh,
You have a good
boy.
one, okay?
You want to see? Have you ever seen anyone cry on the front lines? Because that's what you would see, I'm sure.
Oh God. Hey, no worry, man. Don't
I'm a
worry.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Not a lover. Have you ever thought about doing conflict journalism?
Oh no, I wouldn't. No, that's not for me.
Not from you?
Not for me.
Why is it? What's the thing? Is it the uncomfort, or is it the fear, or like what? Why not?
Oh, I don't want to die.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I would do if we're talking protests, that's fine. Even like more violent protests. Again, still the odds of getting injured or possibly dying is there, but that I could do.
What didn't
I
you say?
don't
War is just the ultimate form of protest?
uh you can say that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Matt, you have a good one, okay?
Yeah, take care, Dylan. Have a good stay safe when you
I
do go.
I'll do my best. You have a good one.
Take care. Maybe back in my youth, maybe I would have been more into it. I got kids. I got kids. I have responsibilities. The people who depend on me to live. Um, I mean, the funny answer was I don't want to die, but the more realistic answer is, if the opportunity came up, I would turn it down because I got kids. Um, I couldn't do that to them. Could never do that. I couldn't do that to myself either if I didn't have kids. But yeah. All right. Let's go. This was long. I mean, long as in really good. I'm saying this is long that way because people are probably gonna assume I'm doing a second half. Let me quickly refill my drink, and I will take one or two calls if they're there. And then I will read the super chats, etc. And then that's the show. So maybe another like 30 minutes or so at most. But first, folks, patreon.com/Matt Binder if you could support this show. We got a new Patreon. It's been really. I used to be able to like name drop like 5 or 6 new patrons every other week or something. It's been a rough month or two, luckily, we were losing last month. People writing in telling me they lost their job. Literally, it was person after person who canceled. Lost my job. I'm so sorry. I always say take care of yourself first. This is extra money you got that you want to spend on something. That's the money you give to me. You take care of yourself and your family first. But right now, we're basically staying at the same level of patrons. Someone leaves, someone new joins. Someone new joins, someone leaves. So let me thank the people, though, who have joined since the last episode of Doomed. We got Connor W., Roger F., and Ian A. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons. I seriously cannot do this show without you guys. The patrons enable me to create this content, allow me to take time away to produce the show, host the show, sit here with you guys, and, hopefully grow the show real soon as more patrons come aboard. You could also support this show by going to youtube.com/MattBinder and subscribing to the channel and dropping a super chat, and I'll read your super chat in the on the second half of the show. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, connect your Amazon account to your Twitch Prime account, and then go to twitch.tv/MattBinder and subscribe to the channel there. When you have an Amazon Prime account, along with that subscription, Amazon gives you a free paid subscription that you can give to your favorite Twitch creator. I'm saying this because I hope you give it to me. If not, just give it to someone who you enjoy. Give it to Dylan if you want to give it to Dylan over me. Just give it to someone other than just letting Jeff Bezos keep even more of the money that you already give him. Follow me on Twitter at MattBinder. For the links to the podcast version of this show, go to doomedcast.com. Check out my other show, Scam Economy, at scameconomy.com. While you're if you go to my Twitter account too, by the way, twitter.com/MattBinder, there's a link. If you're logged into your Twitter account, there's another link, like a widget, where you can just click the little box and automatically subscribe to my newsletter. I'm really trying to focus on getting subscribers. It's a free newsletter. I'm focusing on getting subscribers to that free newsletter because whatever happens with Twitter, whatever happens to any other social media platform, if I have your email, none of these people can take away our ability to connect. I can always send you stuff, and you could always reply to that stuff and tell me your thoughts or anything you come across or whatever. And I really wish I focused on that more throughout the years, getting people's email addresses, because that is the fail-safe there. No matter what happens, so these social media platforms could shut down, go bankrupt, whatever. These email, providers have been around for way longer. They're not going anywhere quite yet. So definitely give me your email address there if you can. All right, folks, I am going to... Oh, and when you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a review for the show if you can. Just click the star review if you want. That's it. That's all you have to do. If you want to write a little something, you can write a written review as well. Just it helps people find the show, because when you leave a review, it pushes the show up the rankings on the podcast charts for each specific platform. All right, folks, give me not even 2 minutes. Give me 30 seconds to refill my soda. And then I'll take 1 or 2 calls, depending on how long they are. I'll read the super chats, and then that is the show. Just give me literally 30 seconds. For people who aren't watching live, for people who aren't patrons, if you're in either of those 2 categories, yes, if you're not a patron and you're watching live, you could stay and watch. You don't get cut off. This is just to the free podcast listeners of this show. This is where your feed is going to end, and this is where I say to you, I will see you all next time on Doomed.
Ecological collapse, corporate fascism, corporate journalism, police brutality, voter suppression, austerity economics, educate the masses, rampant homophobia, armed
We got our first caller. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
What's up, Matt?
Hey,
You from Jamaica?
Dave from Jamaica. How are you doing, my friend? What are we going to be talking about today?
I don't think you are exactly what you claim you are. I would say you're conservative. What makes you a liberal? I'm pro-Green New Deal. Are you? Yes, really? Absolutely. Really? No, I have watched the show. I've seen you completely come out and get really mad at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for some of the things in the Green New Deal.
You mean like free college for black people?
All right, we are back. I got to show you guys something. Nobody calling yet. This happened while I was talking to Dylan. It was really simple. All I had to do was take a screenshot. But it has created the funniest thing I think I've seen in quite some time. Hold on, let me set up the picture here. Okay, so what is that? What is this doing here? Oh my God, this is still open from the Jimmy Dore thing. Hold on, let me get rid of that. Okay, there should be no open window. Okay, this is honestly so hilarious. So James Lindsay, also known as Conceptual James on Twitter, he's this right-wing, anti-LGBTQ, anti-trans, anti-gender identity, whatever you want to call him. He's the guy who went on Dr. Phil and stuttered and talked way too fast to the point where he was just spouting out gibberish that no one watching Dr. Phil could understand. That guy. He was banned from Twitter, and of course, Elon Musk takes control. This is the guy who would jump into people's feed or quote tweet them and call them groomer. He would do the OK groomer thing. So he was unbanned after being suspended under Elon Musk's Twitter. Elon Musk unsuspended him. He's back. Personally, I think that's great because it enables me to do things like this. So I previously did this thing with the same photo, but let's stick with this one. So I wrote about him earlier today in Mashable. I basically put together a post for Mashable, an article for Mashable that runs through all the various notable or noteworthy accounts that have been reinstated, or the once banned accounts that have been reinstated under Elon Musk. And I did like a little, Donald Trump got a lot to talk about. Babylon B, Jordan Peterson. No, those were the main ones. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene. But then I did like a small, like 1 or 2 lines about smaller yet still noteworthy to mention. Honorable mentions, I guess you can call them. And James Lindsay is one of them who I mentioned in the article. And so I described him as James Lindsay, known as @ConceptualJames on Twitter, a right-wing media figure who repeatedly and baselessly called individuals in the LGBTQ community groomers. I think that's an accurate description. A very fair one, too. Didn't really get into any, I could have, but, just straightforward. This is what he did. It's why he got suspended. And so he tweets, LOL, LMAO, I don't say baseless things. Everything I say is based as fuck. AF. Okay, that's cool. That's fine. But then someone at him, like he doesn't know who I am. He absolutely does because he tries to ignore me whenever he can. This user tweets to him, the author here. And she links him to my insanely viral Twitter thread that has almost 100,000 likes. Where I explain that Elon Musk lives in a right-wing bubble, which is why you see him only interacting with other right-wing Twitter accounts. And it also explains why he thinks what he thinks about what's wrong with Twitter. Like, no one cares about the blue checks, like the verification badge, other than extremely online right-wingers. That's never been an issue for other people. That's why he's running that paid $8 subscription where you can get a blue check, because he thinks everyone wants one. He thinks there's a market for it because right-wingers are obsessed with it. That's the gist of my, of my Twitter thread here. So apparently he saw it and he decided to quote tweet it and say to me, "Okay, groomer." Now, the last time he did this, like back in June, he got ratioed because I did exactly what I did today. And this time, though, I actually took a screenshot of my previous commentary. You'll see what I mean right now. So I just quote tweeted what he said to me. He said, "Okay, groomer," calling me a groomer. Okay, if that's what you want to do. So I quote tweeted that tweet and replied to him. Just a screenshot of the tweet I previously sent to him in June. "Okay, James Lindsay, who is seen here with a member of the Nexium sex cult, whose leader is currently in prison for child sex trafficking." And there he is, sitting next to Nikki Klein, who shared a picture of James Lindsay saying, "I taught him everything he knows." And I should go down to this. Someone points out that Nikki Klein just wasn't a member of Keith Raniere, who is the leader of, I should say, Keith Raniere is now a convicted sex criminal. He's in prison for the rest of his life for his role running Nexium. Nikki Klein wasn't just a member. She was his closest partner and still to this day defends him. And it also appears that she was a perpetrator of it and actively acquired victims for Keith Raniere, allegedly. So if you go back now and look at James Lindsay's "Okay, groomer" tweet to me, also look at the ratio here. James Lindsay's tweet. This guy's got 340,000 followers. James Lindsay's tweet has 31 retweets, 460 likes. My tweet to him, 182 retweets, 2,107 likes, and it's still going. But the real funny part is here. Look at the replies. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can really see. Look at the replies to James Lindsay's tweet here. You ready? I'm just going to keep scrolling. I'm going to be here for a minute. We're going to be here a while. It's I don't think anyone has ever been this owned on Twitter. This is better than a ratio. I don't even know what to say to this. It just keeps going. In the chat, people are saying stop, he's already dead, but I'm not going backwards yet. I'm just scrolling through my mouse. Straight down his replies here. Oh, who's rating me right now? Hold on, I gotta keep scrolling here. To whoever's rating me, welcome. Thank you for the rate. I'll thank you specifically in a second. This is. I don't know what to say. This is literally how many people here? I have to hold on. Once I'm done scrolling, I need to check the the number on the replies thing. Oh, someone added a image description, by the way, for that image now too. Oh my God. I've never seen anything quite like this. I've seen ratios before. It just keeps going. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm not even clicking the little show replies. I wonder what's in the show replies here too. Is there more of that? Oh my God. Is it done? Oh wait. Oh no, there it is, another one. But the people who aren't posting that are even knocking him. How's Nikki doing? This person said. Oh my God. To like the 4 followers he has that defended him, it's even. Do I dare click show more replies? Ah! Oh my God. Even the show more replies is full of it. Oh, there's someone trying to own me. And then they get immediately owned. First of all, I'm one good looking motherfucker. I don't care what these. Do people not realize that, like, I own the fucking crust punk look? That's who I am. If you think I don't look like. If you think I look like I don't take a shower and I look like a shaggy haired, dirty punk, guess what? That's what I'm going for. That's who I've been always. Oh my God. Like, it's literally like someone points out, literally the photo I chose for my avatar on all my streams. All right, there we go. We finally finished. Let me go thank the. Oh, and he tried. Wait, he tried to own without getting back into my mentions because he knows better, I guess. He tried to pretend that someone else sending it to him was LOL Binder though Projection City, and then even that tweet is getting owned. Oh my God. I've never seen anything like it. There's been ratios before, but that one's a brand new one. Oh, thank you, Jacob Ball, for becoming a patron. Oh, that was the Elon Musk thing I was looking at before. All right, let me go back to my thing here. All right, let's $27. Thank you so much for the raid. Really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Hello, all of $27 listeners. Let's see. Let's go. Okay, I'll take a phone call or two now. Just one or two really quick. We'll see how this goes. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Ooh.
Hey Matt,
feedback.
let me mute your stream.
Feedback
Sorry.
there. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah. No, I didn't realize it was gonna be first call. My bad.
No, it's all.
Josh,
Hey, Josh. What did I talk about?
California.
Oh yeah, right. I remember you. Right, Josh from California. Right.
Yeah. So you saw Alex Jones is paying his personal trainer $100,000 a week.
What?
Yeah. So it's the judge today. I really fucking hate that guy. So I've just been following the trial really closely, and all the shit he's doing to try and hide his money. So the judge today in Texas ruled that there is no punitive damages cap because normally it's like 2.5 times whatever the compensatory damages are, but because his lawyers and he acted so egregiously, she's like able to waive the punitive damages cap. So he's got to pay all $47 million to the 2 families down there too. So his total is up to like $2 billion or something now. But yeah, he's paying his personal trainer like $100,000 a week to look like that. Because I assume it's a scheme to sort of hide his money. But
That's
it's quite fascinating. Like, and it's great because he's so ham-handed that I think it's accidentally exposing like a lot of the shit that rich people do to hide their money in general.
no, I think you're. I gotta look into that. I did not hear about that. I'm not. Although I would love to, I would love if that is true. I would love to know, see what Alex Jones' personal trainer has been doing to earn that $100,000.
Probably banging his wife, but that's a whole.
Well, I mean, didn't she left him? Didn't she? I don't know if he has another
No,
significant other.
so he has the there's the ex-wife Kelly who was Jewish, who was the reason that all of his followers say that he doesn't go after Israel enough because he's Mossad, because he was married to a Jewish woman. And they got divorced. And the newest one he married a couple of years ago, and I think she's got like a lot of she's had a lot of plastic surgery since they got married. So I don't know. And she obviously, this was after all the Sandy Hook stuff. So obviously she's just with him for the money because he looks like a melting pumpkin. But yeah, no, it's really fascinating. Just like the corporate structure of it all is really interesting because he's got all of these different holding companies, which normally would probably be enough to protect him, because if they were operating as separate entities, you can't necessarily get money out of those separate corporate entities because they're legally like different people or whatever. But because he's been commingling the funds from all of them, and allowing one company to go $47 million in debt to another one without any attempt to collect, and he's one of the sole holders of these different trusts, that they're basically violating the corporate structures so that they're all a single basically a single entity under his control. So it's very interesting that he's just so dumb that he's gonna truly screw himself in a way that he absolutely deserves.
I love it. I have to really get more details on this. It's fantastic what you've just explained to me. What you just told me about. I'm actually a little bit disappointed. I didn't know about this already.
Yeah, well, a lot of it just happened today. So.
Oh, it just came out today. All right, oh, okay.
Yeah, the judge just ruled today about the punitive damages cap.
Oh, I'm seeing this now. Alex Jones says he's paying his personal trainer $100,000. Oh no! I feel bad for this guy. I Googled Alex Jones personal trainer, and one of the links that comes up is a link to an actual personal trainer on LinkedIn and on Instagram whose name is Alex Jones. And his Instagram handle is Coach Alex Jones. This poor guy.
He's gonna get asked what he's doing for $100,000 a week a lot for the next couple of months.
This poor, unfortunate soul. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Josh. Was there anything else you want to talk about, or is that you wanted to?
Yeah.
Let me know?
So you have some real interesting new participants in your YouTube chat today. So I think Dylan brings some.
No, I know he's got. Listen, I probably am not as. I mean, obviously, I'm not even going. I don't even go to Ukraine to show my support. I'm obviously not at the same level.
I thought it was really funny that the second thing you brought up that you had kids. You're
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I don't want to die.
I don't want to
Oh, yeah,
die.
I have
No,
kids.
no, I'm not gonna put myself in that position. No, thank you. Um, uh, but I mean, I I'm not Dylan level. I understand and am sympathetic towards some of the criticisms. I don't agree with all of them. I don't agree with most of them, but I get where it's coming from, and I understand the critiques and the arguments. But I'm also, I mean, it just seems so simple to me. If you don't like what's going on, you should be one of the voices calling for Russia to leave.
Yeah, I agree.
It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And I saw one thing I forgot to bring up. I saw some people in the chat saying we should be negotiating with Russia. Who's to say we didn't try? I mean,
Well, and I mean,
we can't
can also
we can't even save Brittany Grenier. Is that her name? Brittany Grenier, the WNBA
Right.
player who's stuck. We can't even
Yeah,
save
right.
her. We tried to negotiate to save her, and we couldn't even save her. But we're somehow going to negotiate the end to a war that Putin is gung-ho about? I mean, it's pretty clear that a negotiation, if there wasn't hardcore negotiations, there had to have been some attempt to at least reach out, and it went nowhere. Because there was negotiations for Brittany Grenier, and they failed miserably.
Yep. Now they wanted to make an example out of her because she's black and she's a lesbian and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We don't have any. There is no leverage on our part. One, because I don't think Zelensky's going to listen to us. I mean, he can listen to us. We could threaten to cut off weapons and whatever, but then you're just the whole thing's been a waste and whatever, and it's also against our interests, and I think Zelensky knows that we're not going to do that. But also, what's our leverage on Russia?
Also, I'm not sure what the negotiation end for Ukraine is supposed to be. Like, it seems like people in the anti-imperialists in the U.S. want us to make Ukraine give up some land to Russia, and that they categorize themselves as anti-imperialists? What? Like, those two things don't make sense to me. If you're an anti-imperialist, you would respect Ukraine's position that they do not want to give up anything.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think there's it's just trading Russian hegemony for U.S. hegemony or whatever. And I don't agree with that argument. There's so many different players in that region that have either very little to do with us or nothing to do with us at all, that I think there's this, and you're right, because of the era that we grew up in where we're projecting our power all over the place, people have this, bipolar, really not even bipolar, unipolar view of the world, where the U.S. is.
You know what I would say? I see someone brought up Crimea, and listen, I would say that the furthest the negotiation could go, unless Ukraine decides otherwise, is sadly it has been 8 years since Crimea. Mm-hmm. I would think if the war ended up strictly being over Crimea, then I would say the U.S. should probably then try to push harder with Ukraine to just listen. I get it. It's not right, but it's also been 8 years, and that's not what sparked any sort of direct conflict like we're seeing now in Ukraine. If Crimea, again, I'm not saying that that's what, but if that came to that, I could see that being the thing that you got to give. That's something you just got to come to terms with. That's done. But the idea that they would give any more than that, strictly anything that was gained during this year's invasion, I just don't get it. Unless they chose to, as a nation, who are we to say anything like that?
Yeah, It's the same. Yeah, I mean, there's it's a lot of the same arguments about like that get brought up in a bunch of other contexts. It's like, what would our reaction be if, Mexico decided, oh, we're taking back New Mexico. It was ours a couple hundred years ago or whatever, so we're taking back New Mexico.
There's also this bizarre. I always see people bring up like, oh, we haven't played with Russia right since the Cold War or whatever. It's like you realize Russia's not the same country anymore. Like I feel like there's this weird affinity for like the Soviet Union, and like listen, I can get that as if you're a leftist. Like I think they take it a little bit too far, but I get that they're Lenin, and I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get that a little bit. I mean, I don't get the. And
let me tell you why really quickly. Like, sure. I get what you're saying. So the Soviet leftists in the U.S. should have fucking hated the Soviet Union because it was a complete perversion of like Lenin and Marx's vision of once Stalin took over.
I was going to get there. The Stalin people, I don't get. The Lenin people, I get. I get the affinity because of Lenin. I understand that. But it's like if Russia's easily more right wing than the U.S., hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're a leftist and you hate the right, I mean, why are you defend? Like you could again, I feel for the people there. I mean, and I've spoken to leftists and progressives there, and the brave people there who put themselves out there like that. I had someone on earlier this year who was a listener of the Majority Report, who is a Russian socialist, Yegor Korkin. He DMs me sometimes. He's great. He's absolutely. I got to have him on again soon. Hates what's going on in his country. You should side with him. He's got nothing nice to say about Putin, and he criticized NATO. Obviously, as a Russian, he doesn't like NATO. I get that completely. I'm fine with if you don't like NATO, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But the idea that like Russia is some sort of sympathetic figure here is just Ukraine did nothing to them. They didn't. The idea that like, oh, because of NATO, Ukraine has been shot down from joining NATO over and over and over again. Ukraine's been turned away from NATO over and again. NATO's flat out told Ukraine, not going to happen.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, if anything, the invasion is probably going to push some of these NATO countries to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should let Ukraine in. They need our help.
Yeah. I mean, look at what it did with Finland, and they were never going to join. They had no interest. But now, like they didn't want to align with NATO.
There's one thing I want to, one more chat thing I want to, Maverick says you cannot take a side too. Well, what do you mean by take a side? You mean Ukraine or Russia? I don't mean that. I'm not taking Ukraine's side or Russia's side. I don't care about the Ukrainian government. I don't care about Zelensky in terms of like, oh, I hope he's still I don't care about that. My side is, what is the scenario that's best for the innocent people in Ukraine who are suffering because their country is occupied by invaders, and for the innocent people in Russia who are being sent to their death or are dealing with sanctions that hurt their everyday way of life? What scenario is going to quit? And what is the quickest scenario to help those two people? Whose side I'm on, the innocent people, for Russia to get the fuck out of Ukraine.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, that's especially all of these atrocities. They're not gonna. I mean, they're just not gonna stop. Occupiers are brutal, no matter where they are. Like, and because they feel entitled to be, and it's this. It is. You cannot leave an occupying force like that there and say, oh, well, the civilians aren't going to suffer under them. And I mean, it's, my ex is from grew up outside of Moscow, moved to Kyiv to go to college. Her family all lives near and around Kyiv. They're all, I mean, they're ethnically Russian, but they're, they all identify as Ukrainian because they've been there for 30 years. Like that's, there's a lot of close ties between the countries, but none of them identify as like Putin fans or whatever. They really just want to be Ukraine for Ukrainians and like be friends or whatever, neighbors, and have access to go back and forth.
How the events unfolded should tell everybody that they're wrong, that there is some like majority contingent or even half of the country who wishes they longed for being part of Russia or being part of being connected to Russia again. We literally see what happened. Even Putin thought Russia would be greeted as liberators, just like the U.S. thought when they entered Iraq. Putin thought there'd be an uprising in Ukraine, that they wanted to once again belong to Russia. And we saw the absolute opposite. I mean, these are regular people fighting in Ukraine too.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, and a lot of the Russians that have left over the years, they left because they don't want anything to do with him and his type of government, and that's why they overthrew Yanukovych in 2014 too, because they were sick of. And I mean, there's still a lot of problems with corruption and all that. Again, like I talk to my ex pretty much every day, and she's like, we should not in any way be giving them direct financial aid because it's going to end up in the hands of the oligarchs if we give them money. But that's why they wanted a change in government, because most people don't want to live under those kinds of systems. Like I mean, shit. How many? Look at how ours is very exploitative and has many problems, and look at how many people like want to get rid of that system, and that's less obviously rapacious than.
Hold on, I got to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
I'm still listening. I gotta leave the screen for a second. My daughter woke up, so I just gotta go wake up mom so she could take her back to bed.
Okay.
Keep talking. I'm listening in my headset.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, basically what I was saying is, people just get tired of being exploited and rise up against it. And it's like, obviously they want nothing to do with this shit. And so if you want to support people's right to self-determination of this kind of stuff, obviously you'd be on the side of the Ukrainians. And it's very confusing to see, like, again, yes, we should be pushing for some sort of negotiation, I guess, but also like it's got to be one that the Ukrainians can live with, and two, one that's not just the standard Russian and Syrian and whatever tactic of let's negotiate a ceasefire so that we can regroup our forces, and then we're going to break it in 3 days when you're not ready for us to attack, because that ceasefires don't mean anything if it's going to be violated if it's just the whole purpose is a strategic pause strategic pause so that you can marshal your forces and counterattack. All
right. Josh, thanks for the call. And I appreciate you keeping the viewers entertained while I had to quickly jump off the screen.
Of course. Have a great night.
I heard everything you said, by the way.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Have a great night. Always appreciate it. Have a happy Thanksgiving, by the way, if you're doing that up.
I am. Yeah, my parents flew into town, so I'm gonna have a nice Thanksgiving dinner with everybody and the in-laws. That'll be fun.
Have fun.
Bye.
Okay, I'll take one more quick call. Gotta be quick. Gotta be quick. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oi. Hey, can you hear me all right?
I can. Who's this?
Okay, great. Thanks, first of all. As a matter of order, I'd like, what's your name? So I'd like to be able to know what type of person I'm speaking to.
Okay, my name is Matt. You're calling into my show, buddy.
Matt Binder.
You can call me that if you want,
I've
yes.
heard of your like. Alright, well, I was calling into... I saw... Excuse me, I was having trouble with a pen. It's Charles.
Okay.
I expect a bit more of a response from that, to be honest.
Wait, maybe I didn't hear what you said. Say it again. You have a thick, gruff Australian accent? Is that right?
Yeah, sure. Is that how much fucking respect your country has for the Queen's English? This is bloody Charles. King Charles.
I misheard you then. I'm so sorry. You are King Charles. Okay, I get it. I get it.
Bloody Charles to you,
Okay.
mate.
I actually totally misheard you. Go ahead. How are you doing, Your Majesty?
You were confusing me for the bloke that we sold all of our newspapers to.
I got the
But
accent
this
you're
is
doing.
king. This is the true king. The real king.
this is-
Charles.
Mr.
Bloody
Mr.
fucking Charles.
Your Majesty.
They meant to blow the bloody doors off Charles.
Your Majesty, I have to ask. I never realized how many
Croquet.
how many
Cricket.
cigarettes do you smoke?
Listen, I don't have this bloody voice for smoking fags. And I'm allowed to say that, because I'm bloody English.
That's right, you are. 'Cause-
All of the arsenic that's in all the walls of the ancient house that I live in.
You could
With
also-
me
you can also drop the C word if
still
you
in the
want.
house. They didn't actually bury her. We've got her down in the root cellar so she can't complain to the neighbors through me. I'm dressing up like a like.
Okay, that's right.
But I
oh,
want you to call in just to give me approval of the show. The Matt Binder experience is beloved tradition in our bloody kingdom. And I'd like to thank you for covering all of the things that we like to hear about.
oh, I didn't know you. I didn't know you were such a fan.
Oh, I'm the biggest fucking fan of them all. Oh, we go down to the pub and have a party every Tuesday. Tuesday is a play back in the fucking experience.
Whoa.
It's a good old time, mate.
Whoa, Your Majesty, please calm down. I don't want you to have an aneurysm. Well, it wouldn't. I don't want you to
My
have.
brain has
I was gonna
been
say it could be good content, but
Ancestrally developed in order to not succumb. That's how we people are allowed to stay or get as old as we can without having to. See, Thatcher, the problem with her was that she was technically working class. And as far as we're concerned, see, the real trick with Wood was that there's no middle, there's only a working class.
there we go.
And then there's us, aristocrats, hunting foxes and transportering people.
All right. All right, Your Majesty. I can't get over that. You
That's
called into the
King, your
show.
fucking majesty to you.
King, Your fucking Majesty. I will call you that. I promise.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, quite polite. Thank you. Yes, sir. Indeed.
Okay, King, Your fucking Majesty.
Yes, it's been quite a good call, and I have quite enjoyed your pleasantry, and I hope that another day we shall speak. Ha, indeed. Tea and whiff-waff and ping-pong. Lots of fingers and bedrobs, broomsticks, and chip-tap, chip, and bucket taps.
Thank. I gotta take another call, Your Majesty. I appreciate it. This was great. All right, because that was just for fun, shits and giggles. I'll take one more call. Absolutely, one last call. Let me read the super chats while we wait for. Oh, someone's already calling in. Let me take this call. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, well, you know who this is.
Oh, can I put you up on the feed, Emmy?
Yeah!
Oh, 1 second. Here we go. I love the hat. What is it? That's a bunny rabbit, right?
Hey! Yeah!
Whoa, 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 whoa! What? What?
Yeah!
Okay, you gotta drop the link in the Skype to where you got that, in my Skype to where you got that.
Yeah.
That is perfect, like gift, like the holiday season's coming up. That is perfect gift quality right there. Oh my God.
Anyways, yes, that's, yeah.
So what would you like to talk about, Em?
Well, I called to talk about two things. The first thing I called to talk about was Sundays, was scam economy, was where is I run my show on Sundays. What are you doing running scam economy on Sundays? I keep missing your show. I keep trying to call in.
Sorry, I did.
I was going to call in for Halloween, and then I was going to call in for after, and then I was going to end. Like I'm still here. I'm calling in about horror movies for Halloween, and it's Thanksgiving now. So
here's the thing. I tried out. There was like a Thursday I couldn't do, so I did it Sunday instead, and it was just successful. The podcast gets way more downloads dropping on a Sunday night. My assumption is people wake up Monday morning, a fresh episode on their phone or whatever they use to listen to their favorite podcasts. And not only a fresh episode for Monday, if they don't get to it on Monday, they can get to it Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. My assumption is that when I dropped it on Thursday night, that gave them 1 day, that following Friday, to listen to it. And if they didn't get around to listening to it on their commutes or whatever, Saturday, Sunday, then Monday shows up and they got a whole phone full of new podcasts.
Stuff.
Yeah. It's been a huge difference. Some episodes have been way more popular than others, but that was going to happen regardless. But in general, there are more people listening to the show dropping it on a Sunday night.
I mean, I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you've found out my secret of
there you
broadcasting.
go.
Sunday is the best day to broadcast. You glommed onto it. So
it's a good day to do it. It just makes sense. I mean, because if you think about it, most people are probably listening to podcasts while they're going to work. And if someone's not going to work, they're not listening to podcasts.
Also, people got fuck all to do on a Sunday,
Right.
Excuse my vernacular.
Or on a Saturday, they just want to watch movies
Sunday,
and relax.
Sunday
or
night,
something.
especially.
Yeah.
Like Sunday night, Well,
Well,
you've gone to church. You've.
Right. For the live stream, yeah. I think, but for the podcast, I think what's happening is most people are listening to it the next day, that Monday. Yeah.
Good to know. Well, now I learn something new every day. But yeah. So the other thing I was calling to talk about was horror movies. But since it's been like a month, I've forgotten all the stuff that I was going to say.
Oh well, give me one recommendation you want to drop. Oh, I just saw Don't Worry, Darling. That movie that was causing a lot of drama because Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles and what's her name from Midsummer, whatever. However
the new Black Widow. I forget Pugh.
Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh,
Yeah. Whatever her name. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I actually pushed it off a few times watching it because it didn't appeal to me. I guess I really didn't know what it was going to be about. I really liked it. It was very good. Definitely was not expecting like a thriller, like a weird sci-fi thriller out of it, and that's what it is. I don't want to say horror.
You like some sci-fi,
but there are definitely horror aspects to it. I wouldn't classify it in the horror genre, but definitely has a few horror tones.
Nice. Well, I watched so much. I watched so much damn.
My dad's reminding me. I saw Nope too on Peacock.
Oh,
It's on
Nope
Peacock.
is great. Nope is great.
I missed
you
it
can
in
rewatch
theaters.
Nope and pick up more and more stuff
It was.
Every time you watch Nope.
I will say,
There's so much in it.
he almost Jordan Peele almost lost me. It was very, very slow start, and usually I'm into that. I really like movies with a slow build. I hate movies that get right into action. I much prefer an hour of pure building characters, making you care about the characters, and then that final act being, everything. I prefer that. But Nope started, something was off to me in the beginning. But after seeing it in totality, it worked. I think you needed it to feel that way in the beginning. So it all came together at the end. I thought it was really good. Not his best, but really good.
I think it's his best. I think his vision is actually a very large vision, and like we're finally getting to see movies like in the scope that like he actually works better in some ways. I think we've got a lot of great stuff to come from him, and he's just going to keep getting better and better. But that's me personally.
Oh, he's great. He's doing really original stuff, which we're not getting enough of in horror, honestly.
There's a lot of great like A24 stuff,
Yeah.
I really like one of their better. Yeah, I really like Ghost Story, a ghost story, the one about the ghost in the sheet. It's just a guy in a sheet with holes in it.
Really?
Kind of. It's just it's like
not
what if
horror,
you do
though.
a haunting? It's like what if you do a haunting from the ghost perspective?
Okay.
It's a good film. It's fun, It's a nice turn it on its head film.
I would say the best horror movie I've probably seen in the past couple. I really loved *Malignant*. So good. I think that's my favorite modern horror movie that I've seen. I thought have you seen that one?
No.
You will never in a million years guess where that movie goes. Please watch *Malignant*. I think it's on HBO Max.
Maybe someday.
It's so good.
Anyhow.
Did you any other movie you wanted to?
I mean, I can't really. As I said, I had something, and it's been like a month now. But I was just like, well, tonight's the night I'm going to call in, and I don't even remember what I was going to talk about half the time. But I made notes. I lost those notes. I've been going through a lot. I've been going through a rough time in my own personal life.
Well, I hope everything's okay. Just remember,
it's terrible.
Oh, I'm sorry, but just remember,
my
life is the ups and downs are all part of life. You need to experience them both. It sucks,
right.
But the downs make you really appreciate the highs.
Wow.
I don't know what you're going through, but I'm just telling you that
my dad decided to disown me after my mom died and started dead naming me, and
I'm so sorry about that.
The whole 9 yards. He's going full in.
Sometimes you just gotta cut people out. I know it's hard, but sometimes, yeah. For the best. Maybe he'll come around at some point and realize that.
Yeah, he can love me for who I am, and if he figures out he wants to love me for who I am, that's cool. If not, whatever. That's a different story. That's
I hear you. I'm just letting you know that hang in there. That's all. I can't pretend to know what you're going through, but I will just tell you. Hang in there.
It's cool. What there was something else. Damn it. There was something I had to say. Anyways, I guess so. You're permanently moving to Sundays now with Scam Economy.
Yeah.
Clearly not going to be on tomorrow because tomorrow's the Turkey Day or whatever. Or are you doing? You tell me. Is it Sundays now?
It's Sundays now. At least for now. At least for a little bit.
Let's do it.
At least
Sundays
for a little
now.
bit. Also because Thursdays it looks like there's a little bit of breaking news, I guess. That election, that second midterm election stream I did with David Dole, Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report, Lance of the Surfs, H.R. Brown,
the super Illuminati, yeah.
It was we had so much fun doing it that it looks like, at least for now, we'll see how it goes. We're gonna try doing it on the regular on Thursdays.
Like every Thursday. Or like,
Every Thursday. At least for now.
whoa.
At least for now.
Matt's moving 4 shows. 4 shows now. We get double Matt on Thursday. We
Well,
still get
not double
so
Matt
you're
on
saying we
Thursday.
still get double Matt on Thursday?
No, well, I'm not doing double on Thursday. Just that show on Thursday.
You do Majority Report on Thursday.
Oh, right. Yes, I do. No, you're right. Yes. No, you're right. You're right. I don't remember. And actually, I forgot to. I keep mentioning this, but it keep getting pushed back because I'm working on so much stuff right now. I have a third podcast that I'm working on. It's not gonna be like Doomed. It's not gonna be like Scam Economy. It's more of like a quick update when I can update it type thing. It should be up soon. At least that trailer episode. I'm just waiting on Apple to put it up because they have to approve of it and everything to get an Apple podcast. But yeah, I'm. What am I doing? And I don't know why do I do this to myself? I'm crazy. I'm crazy.
Because you love it. You love it. You're in it for the game. You don't. What are we talking about? We talking about practice? We talking about practice? Is that what we're talking about? We're not talking about. We're talking about the game. We're talking about practice. Or we're talking about the game. What you live for. What you die for.
Whoa, where's this going? Thank you for the call. It's getting late on my end.
Don't remember Tim Iverson, but anyways, Emma would get that one.
I love when you call in. Thank you so much. I especially love that you called in wearing that hat, which you will now drop the link.
Yay.
You will now drop the link in my Skype, and you will not forget because I'm being super serious about me buying that hat for somebody on a Christmas list or something. So
yes,
please.
I meant to make it shorter than I did, but next time I'll come prepared with notes. Hopefully it won't be an hour, but I guess it'll be on Tuesdays because it won't be on Sundays and Thursdays doesn't have a call in. So Tuesdays, you better make some room.
Yeah, there you go. Have a great night, Em.
Love you, Matt. Love everybody in the chat. Y'all
Thank
take
you
care.
so much. Take care of yourself. All right, folks. Let me read the super chats. That's it for calls. It's getting late. It's getting really late, and I got stuff to do. And it's getting late. It's getting late. Wanda with a super chat. Happy Thanksgiving. Great show tonight. Thank you, Wanda. Ronaldo Dos Santos with a super chat. Ask Dylan about the developments in Turkey. I'm sorry, Ronaldo. I did not see that super chat when I had it. I'm so sorry. You get a free question next chat you're in. I promise. You don't got to drop another super chat. Just at me. I'll remember your name. You could even mention, hey, I sent a super chat that you didn't get around to, and I will make sure I read whatever comment you want to leave next time around. I promise. I feel terrible. Renee with multiple super chats. Let me read them all right now from Renee. The pandemic was a big untenable circumstance, though. The far right in Chile support Ukraine. I mean, fighting imperialism with imperialism. Both sides hate Marxism. It's Milosevic and Croatia. Support Emmy Martian on Patreon. Well, I like the last one. Spocko with a $16 super chat. Wow, thank you, Spocko. I'm thankful for Matt Binder's laugh, his great guests, and his ability to call out trolls. Long live and prosper, Spocko. Thank you, Spocko. Always a pleasure to talk with you. You are one of my favorite callers. Not only because I enjoy talking with you, but because you have a knack of being able to take over as co-host pretty much when you call in and just lay down the law while I rest my voice after a long show, after a long first half with the guest. Truthfully, I appreciate when you do that. Kowalski with the super chat. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Kowalski. You too, everybody. Over on Twitch. Late Bloomer 66 with the subscription for 1 month at Tier 1. Thank you. Once again, $27 rated with a party of 73 viewers. Thank you so much, $27. Trashomancer cheered 100 bits. Thank you so much. Michael Porter gave out 5 community gift subs. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Serious Business resubscribed for 1 month at Tier 1. Whoa, I think we have the longest Twitch subscriber right here. Subscriber for 13 months. Woo, says Serious Business. Thank you so much. 13 months, over a year subscribing to my Twitch. Thank you. Corn Pop for Prez, resubscriber Prime, 8-month subscriber. That's definitely a long time. It sucks that you came in, that Serious Business came in after you with the 13 months, because 8 months is certainly notable as well. That's all the, there was some, I already read these other Twitch subscriptions on Scam Economy on Sunday. Those are the ones from today that I just read. All right, folks. Who should I raid on Twitch? Who should I raid on Twitch? Who's up for the raid? Let's see. As always, patreon.com/Matt Binder to support this show. We got Raid Matt Binder. Oh, that's a good idea. Who's someone new? Frogan. Frogan's a good one. I've raided Frogan before. But if there's no one new, 90 Day Fiance reacts. Ravana is not on. All right, everyone's saying Frogan, so I'll do Frogan. I don't know if my audience is going to be into 90 Day Fiance reacts, but everyone's saying Frogan, so. "90 Day Fiance reacts." All right, here we go. Let's do Frogan. All right, folks, thank you so much for supporting the show, for watching the show. If you celebrate Thanksgiving here in the U.S., I truly hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with minimal confrontation with family members who will obviously want to start a fight with you over, I don't know, right-wing politics, cryptocurrency, Trump, what happened with Twitter and Elon Musk. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be a number of things to come up. This is a lot of stuff going on. Just enjoy Thanksgiving. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it if you can. And you know what? If there's a problem, remove yourself from the situation. Just leave. Grab some turkey and go. Have a great night. Happy Thanksgiving. And I will see you all next time on Doomed.